you will always cap yourself at your limitations based on what you're built for.
Yeah.
So like even in the brewing industry, Jim Cook, the owner of Boston Beers, the guy's a genius and he's the first ever like craft brewer in America. He always said when the markets are slow, that's when you refine your systems and processes. So when the market goes gangbusters, he's like, we don't let our foot off the gas. You go full steam ahead. Things are gonna break, all the things, but that's the time to make hay when the sun's shining. Worry about the other stuff when the market's slow. What I felt like at that time is like we had built the system in the machine.
Yeah.
So when COVID came and everybody was free to move about the country, we had this system that was just literally raining down leads like crazy, and people were begging us all across the country. So we went from our Portland channel to 11 channels. We started bringing agents into the EXP model with our channels, and we just worked out our splits, and the rest is history.
Welcome. I'm super excited. So for all of you that are viewing and listening and tuning in, you can go check out Liftoff Agent's YouTube channel for the hour episode to go specifically into more of like his background with the team, what he's up to with his partner and all the things. And today we have a 2-hour podcast on the Liftoff experience. And we're going to talk more about when he's at Liftoff, like personally, professionally, spiritually, because like 450 agents, coach at the Elite Real Estate Agents, success investor, 2 homes here in Arizona. Normally don't record them on Fridays, but we adjusted the schedule. We're on what is today? A Wednesday?
Yeah, Wednesday.
A Wednesday? Half the time I don't even know what day it is. But we have the one and only Jesse Dow on the show. Welcome to the Liftoff experience, dude.
Thank you. Excited to be here. It's
Dude.
funny, when you were talking about the day last night, I was thinking, I'm like, is tomorrow Wednesday? So we do weekly group coaching,
Yeah.
and then the 4th Wednesday of the month is always our panel.
Okay.
So last night I was telling you how I got to the hotel super late, and then I stayed up till 2 watching a movie.
Yeah.
And I looked at my phone and I'm like, oh, I flew backwards an hour. That means I'm losing an hour or whatever.
Yeah.
Oh, the things start an hour earlier. So usually the coaching starts at 9 where I'm at.
Yeah.
In Mountain Standard, but it started at 8 o'clock here. So I was like, oh, dude, now I got to be at this in 6 hours. And I'm like, I got to go.
It's like, I got to get to sleep, man. I got stuff to do here.
I kept waiting for like the perfect break to shut the movie down too.
Dude, that's the hardest when you're like watching a movie and you're really into it and you're like, oh man, I gotta stop this movie because I got stuff to do tomorrow.
Exactly.
And what did we say before we got on about real estate?
Oh, real estate's part-time all the time.
Part-time all the time, man. So I'm really excited and interested because, for anyone out there that wants to get in real estate, Jesse with EXP, he could have potentially an amazing team for you to join. And besides the team and what he's doing and the passive prospecting and the channel junkies and all the crazy, awesome, amazing things and his partner, before all of it started, I know for you, like, where did you come from? Did you come from real estate? Did your family come from real estate? Are you a cycle breaker? Like,
yeah.
How did you get to this point, man?
Yeah. So, I'm trying to think of like what I think I really got drawn into real estate by watching $1 Million Listing.
Really?
Yeah.
Are you a Ryan Serhant fan?
Yeah. Ryan Serhant, Josh Altman.
Yeah.
Josh Flagg, Frederick Eklund.
Okay.
I kind of not so much a Frederick fan anymore since he like had some drama with Josh Flagg. So.
Oh really?
Yeah,
Okay.
It's actually like it's funny because like you see the brand online.
Yeah.
And then you hear the stories like behind the scenes in real estate. But I think Ryan Serhant does probably the best job of branding out of all of the agents.
For sure.
He crushes it.
He crushes it. I was just watching a video with him and the other man who crushes it, not in real estate. Alex Hormozi. I was watching him and Alex Hormozi, and yeah, shout out. If you guys don't know who Ryan Serhant is, check him out. He's definitely obviously influenced Jesse to get in real estate.
A really good episode to watch with Hormozi is the one he just did with Stephen Graham.
Really?
He's from the real estate industry too, and they were on. Hormozi was on the Iced Coffee Hour with them.
Yeah,
and it was, dude. It honestly. Don't even pay for coaching with them. Just watch that episode. It's a game changer.
It's amazing. And that's why I think that individuals out there, like, I think coaching has shifted. There's like the coaching where you like need the hand holding, like here's your SOPs, here's your KPIs, this is what you need to do. And there's like the coaching where like you could just read books, podcasts, videos. And then if you have the will and you can check yourself and you could take notes, you could coach yourself.
Oh, 100%. There's a lot of people that do want the accountability and need like the check-ins and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm the type of person, like I've coached with Patrick Bet-David,
Oh, wow.
you know, lots of different people.
Yeah.
And the more you pay, the more you expect, but it seems like the less it is because like they're coaching high performers.
Yeah.
And like they're solving for one main issue. So I guess like when I got into the coaching world, actually the people I learned from was here, which was clients and community. And their whole value proposition was you want the system to be copy and paste.
Okay. Okay.
It's so simple that it's like a step-by-step process. So
Yeah.
like when we built our program, I was like, I want to eliminate all the hurdles. So if someone plugs in, they can get the copy and paste system
I love
from
that.
A to Z. And I've
love
looked
that.
at a lot of other coaches' programs, and it's kind of all over the place, and it's not copy and paste. And it's like people have to go off and find their own resources. It's like in our program, we show you how to make thumbnails. We tell you where you can find thumbnails, but we also give you a templated, Canva link so you can go in and grab your own. But it's just everyone does it their own way. But I like wanted to sell real high ticket coaching, and people will get what they pay for. But like I was saying, you always expect a little bit more when you're paying more. And I'm the type of person where I'm like an ultimate researcher and I can figure it out from A to Z. So you talked about like how I got into real estate, and I basically pieced the whole thing together when I got into real estate, because what it was when I got in versus what it was when I thought it was completely night and different. But when the market started going bonkers back in like 2002, 2003, 2004, my mom, she had this boyfriend. She was basically like my stepdad.
Okay.
And he was like into, I should say, helping people get financed. And they were going, like, he wasn't even in real estate, but his son was, and basically my stepbrother.
Okay.
And they were just getting people financed, and they were selling houses and flipping them like crazy. And I still remember, like, people always ask me, like, how many houses did you buy, or did you get burned in the crash? And I still remember going to get a pre-approval letter when I was 19 years old. So this was 2001.
Okay.
I go to the bank. I fill out an application because he's like, you should buy a house because in 5 years you'll be able to sell it for, $200,000 more than what you bought it for. And I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, there's no way that can be true. I went to the bank, got a pre-approval, and the guy like pre-approved me for like $350. And I remember like the mortgage was more than I made.
Oh, wow.
And I said, that's more than I make. How can that be? And he's just like, oh, they're not saying that you need to use that much, but you can get that much. And I'm like, dude, something is wrong here. And I remember thinking like, I didn't know what it was at the time, but I had all these friends that were buying houses and they were getting these, adjustable rate mortgages. And then, the market obviously crashed.
Yep.
And, I ended up buying my first house in 2010.
Okay.
And actually I thought about getting into real estate multiple different times. And when I was 18, believe it or not, there was a John L. Scott office by our house. And I remember going there and I said, hey, what does it take to be a real estate agent? Because my mom's boyfriend was like, you should get into real estate. You'd be really good. And I like always had this dream of selling stuff that just made tons of money. Because I knew I went to college. I thought I was going to work for the FBI.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Detective.
And then I remember he just kept telling me, he's like, you need to get into sales. You need to get into sales. And he actually was like, he owned a car dealership.
Okay.
He was like really good at sales. And he's like, there's way more money in sales than anything else. And you don't need a college education.
Okay.
And so he's like, but real estate's like where the biggest opportunity is. So I went to the John L. Scott office, and I remember speaking to a lady at the desk, and I'm like, hey, how do you become a real estate agent? And she's like, well, you have to pay the money to buy the education, and then you take a test, and then you come back to work here. And I said, and what does that look like? And she's like, oh, you got to pay $18,000 a year. And this is why you should never have your receptionist talking to agents that are walking in, because I didn't realize it was like a split off of the commissions, and it was like
okay.
And so I remember buying the education. It was this box, and it was hard books back then in 01, or this was in 2000 actually.
Okay.
These big giant thick books, and there was like 7 of them. And I remember opening the first one, and they were talking about riparian rights, and I'm like, what the hell is this? I'm like, I'm never going to remember these terms. And I remember the lady's like, oh, once you pass the test, you'll never have to remember this stuff. And I remember just thinking like, that's a joke.
Big time.
And, never got my license. Fast forward to 2015. I'm like, I'm gonna get my real estate license again. Or maybe it was like 2014 or something. And I'm like, I'm gonna get my real estate license. And I was in the brewing industry actually. So kind of skipping ahead.
Yeah.
Thought about getting my real estate license. Then I got promoted, and I actually started working on it, got promoted, totally forgot about it. In 2000 and what year was it? 17? Yeah, 2017. My dad died from liver cancer. And I was actually, I was like, that's the end of it. I'm going to I'm getting out of the brewing industry. I don't even really drink. I don't really enjoy it.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone that's in that industry, they like bend over backwards for it, and they think if they quit, the brewing industry is going to stop. So I ended up quitting my job cold turkey on June 1st, 2017.
Yep.
And then I had my real estate license, and I was actively in real estate on July 1st, 2017. I got my real estate license and joined it in less than 4 weeks.
Wow, congratulations. First liftoff moment. That's interesting. So you went from like brewing, so the catalyst was like your father, it sounds like. You just like were you just like, I wanted to, like, I've been holding it, like holding off, so it's like, just go for it, or like?
I think I was like, you know, like it's anything else in life, depending on what you're going to do, you're looking for that like edge or like that motivation or that excuse to do what you need to do.
Yeah.
And I was really scared to like quit my corporate job. You know, I was making 120 grand a year and, you know, had a house payment and all the things. And it was just one of those things where I was like, I wanted to do real estate and it was on my mind for so long. And I'm like, this was the excuse. And I got into real estate and, you know, I had no savings. I literally quit my job cold turkey.
Wow.
I had like a month of pay that they sent me a check for. So I quit cold turkey, get into real estate. I ended up joining a team. And I remember after like a couple of days, I'm like, you guys like I interviewed when I was going through the process of getting my license.
Yeah.
I interviewed over 40 brokerages and teams.
Okay.
And I remember like one of the questions I asked them all was like, because I read the Red Book from Gary Keller, which is the holy grail of real estate books.
Gotta read that.
And I'd ask him, I said, how was your business when the market crashed? And how's your business today? And, you know, the thing I noticed is that the ones that shifted and went all in on bank-owned houses and short sales, fast forward to the modern era, their businesses had grown 10x. So I noticed like when in a downturn, if you accelerate your output and lead generation, then, you know, it rebounds and then your business explodes. It's kind of like what happened to us during COVID. So I ended up joining this team. I thought they were like the biggest team, best team, highest producing. So I'm like, I'm going to learn all these tricks.
Yeah.
The one thing you learn is all they have is better systems, and everyone is a specialist. So I jumped in there, and then after like 3 days, I'm like, you guys said that you guys were going to have all these leads. Like no one's walking in the door. I'm like doing all the things. And I asked the listing agent, and he did 300 deals a year.
Oh, wow.
I'm like, where's all these leads at? And he's like, I'll be honest with you. He's like, the hottest leads out there. He's like, for sellers is for sale by owner. They have a sign in front of their house. He's like, but they hate agents. He goes, the next best hot lead for buyers are open house people. So I was like, interesting. So I focused 100% on for sale by owners and open houses.
Okay.
But the scripts that they were giving us, like they were for sale by owners, they were all combative scripts. Like, you're never going to sell your house on your own. You're never going to do this. You're never going to do that. And I remember thinking, actually, after this, I'm going to meet a guy for dinner, which was my first ever real estate coach.
Okay.
And he was like known as like the cold calling closer. And I enrolled in his training program. And I thought to myself, because in the brewing industry, I worked for Boston Beer. That was my final stint. I was at Gallo Wine for a while. I could go through the whole list, but Boston Beer is like, and Gallo is really big on sales training. Okay. And so Boston Beer had this acronym called Listen, Acknowledge, Empathize, and Restate. Layer. It's called the Layer Method. And so I'm like, and it worked like clockwork. And Boston Beer is massive. Okay. Sam Adams, Angry Orchard, Twisted Tea.
Yeah.
Truly sparkling.
Okay.
So I'm like, instead of fighting these people, I'm going to align with these people, listen to what they say, and then I'll still ask for the sale. And
I like that.
All of a sudden, like, I remember like the first time I did it, the guy's like, yeah, come over, whatever. And I'm like, holy crap, it worked. And then so I started just doing that left and right. And then at the open houses, I would just, when people would walk in, I noticed that all these agents would have them sign in. They'd ask them if they had an agent. They'd all say, you have an agent. I'm like, I'm not even going to ask them if they have an agent. Yeah. When they come in, I'm going to start taking notes and be very interested in them. Okay. And then at the very end, I'd say, you know, can you give me your agent's information? I want to let them know that they stopped by the open house based on the information I just gathered. And most of them would be like, oh, I don't have an agent.
Oh, so that's super smart. Reverse psychology out there. Let's go.
So then I would send them a video message afterwards. I just say, hey, thanks for coming to the open house. I'm going to send you a few other houses that basically is what you're looking for. If you want to go take a look at them today, let me know. I said, or we can set up a time later this week to go check them out. So my first year in real estate, I closed 24 deals. Wow. Split down the middle, 12 listings, 12 buyers. And then the following year, I did the exact same number again. And I was working 24/7, dude, because in the interim, this is like where you go back to like focusing on the things that work. Yeah. The open houses and the cold calling that was 2 days on the weekend for open houses, cold calling. It's like an hour a day. That was generating all my income, but I was spending hours on end during the weekday and the weekends, wasting time door knocking, just doing crap that didn't work, where I should have been focused on leaning into the things that were actually working. And I love the saying where it's like, if it worked on Monday, do it again on Tuesday. If it works on Tuesday, do it again on Wednesday. And I probably should have been taking some time off with the crappy busy work. But the thing that hooked me on door knocking was the first door I ever went and knocked on. Because every time I did an open house, I'd go knock the neighborhood and say, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Smith are leaving. They wanted me to personally invite you down to their house. If you know a buyer, please bring them. I'd love to choose my neighbor. The first door I ever knocked on, they said, "Oh, are you a real estate agent?" I said, "Yeah." They said, "Oh, we've been looking to hire an agent to sell our house." So I got sucked in right away. And then I thought that, and then I was just like, everywhere I was out door knocking, I was like, "Oh, the next person's gonna list. The next person's gonna list." And out of all of those ventures, and I probably knocked on 10,000 doors.
Wow.
It actually those people never listed with me, and I did close one deal, but it was a referral.
Oh,
'Cause I
wow.
showed them houses all summer, and then they're like, "We're moving out of state." I was like, "Oh, great."
Oh, great. But I love that though. And just for viewers and listeners out there, something to take in consideration. I love how you're talking about in that segment. First, 40 different brokerages. So you did that interviewing process.
Yep.
Then from there, you use reverse psychology after getting to the broker, reverse psychology with doing these open houses and not assuming that they have an agent or even asking that question. And you went into a different direction with that. And then you found out what worked. And then you kept on. Because I think a lot of people, I was talking to an agent earlier this week who's a young buck. He's at this broker and he has a horrible commission split. And he's with EXP, but he's like Chattanooga, Tennessee. He's with like Silver Fox.
Okay.
And so they're like, oh, it's 50-50 if we give you the lead. It's 60-40 if you have the lead, or it's 70-30 if you're nurturing the lead. And so then he literally wants to build his own brand. He wants to do this, this, and this. And he's feeling strangled by this brokerage. So and even if you're not in real estate, that's the same thing with like finding a good book to read. I love how you could just listen to the preview when you go on to Audible, right? Don't pick the first brokerage. Don't pick the first book. Go and do your research and development before you move forward with that. That's powerful.
The thing is, I think there's like a statistic that it's like 70% of whatever you see or hear for the first time is like going to become a core thing. So it's like when you go into a car dealership, the reason they're relentless to let you leave is because they know that it's a 98% chance you're not coming back. However, that they're a very hot lead when they walk in, so it's hard to let them walk out the door. And with brokerages in particularly, they're all going to sell. They all have the best plan. They all have the best splits. They all have the best leads. Like I've never heard a brokerage say, "I have the worst leads. I have the worst splits. I have the worst training." And I will tell you that I've been through 3 brokerages. And they're all vastly different. But usually when an agent moves brokerages, they usually see a big uptick in their production because usually they're learning a new skill set or there was something, holding them back or whatever it may be. But when I left Keller to Next Home, my business amplified it. And it was primarily the positioning of the brokerage and the location, just because the price point of the homes were significantly bigger and better. That's where I knew I wanted to be in that specific location because of that. And then when I went to EXP, our business went from 10 million to 50 million and then 50 million to almost 100 million.
Wow.
A year.
Wow.
And thank you. It's just one of those things that it's just interesting. And it's all about scalability as well and having the systems in place and being around people that actually have done it. So when we're talking about coaching, it's like you don't go and hire a hitting coach. Barry Bonds might not be the best hitting coach and he might not be the best coach, but he learned how to do it. So I'm sure Barry Bonds can mentor you and tell you exactly what you need to do. So there's a lot of people that are great at doing what they do that aren't even in industry or even have to be it. And that's why like most great basketball coaches weren't basketball players because a lot of great players are never great coaches, dude. I tell you, even when I talk about coaching elite agents, it's in the YouTube space. Dude, I hate coaching real estate.
Interesting.
I know, like even I was in management in the brewing industry.
Yeah.
So I was in the corporate side of brewing and I hated managing people. And when you're a top sales leader, and Andy Elliott's from down here, and he talks about this.
Yeah, I've been to his location.
Yeah, I've been, as a top agent, they wanted me to make me the sales manager, and then I made 10% less money, or 10% of what I was making as a sales. And that's what happens in a lot of corporations.
Big time.
And I think people are now learning that you got to put the right players. And actually, I know a lot of people still in corporate. corporate America, and they said that now they're training for hiring for soft skills.
Okay.
And because the other stuff's trainable, and I think that's completely true. And dude, when you get good salespeople, man, it's you got to leave them in those positions where they can just go out there and cook.
Yeah, 100% agreed with that at the end of the day. And the systems, the processes, being around the right individuals. I'm actually reading a book right now, and it talks about, what does it say? It's really good. I actually went through a couple. It said, be your future self now.
Oh, dude.
Dude, amazing book.
I say this all the time, as I always say, the you of today is working for the 70-year-old you in the future.
Yes.
So is 70-year-old Jesse going to be freaking clocking people at Walmart and checking receipts? Or is 70-year-old Jesse going to be sitting on the beach enjoying life?
Amen. Let's go. Where's your future self going to be at? Because at the end of the day, I was talking to my wife about it. I said, what would their child version of you say about where you're at today? Would they be proud of you? And then what are you doing today? And is your future self going to be happy? And are you in alignment with being on the beach, sipping Mai Tais, traveling the world, whatever it is that you want to do? And it's so true. And I think not enough people actually self-evaluate to ask themselves the hard questions. So a hard question for you, not even a hard question, just curious. What was like the driving factor? Was it money? Was it like just freedom of time? Like, why would you even be like, yeah, like, did you manifest like, oh, I want to do $100 million, like, and have 450 agents on a team? Like, did you ever even think or conceptualize that from the beginning of this whole journey?
Not really. I honestly, I think like every other agent, I'm like, I just want to make 100,000.
Okay.
And 100,000 is, that's just an easy benchmark number to put in there. And if you think, I think about it today, and I talk to agents about this when they're thinking about joining us, and they say, I want to make 100 grand. I'm like, well, do you want to sell $4 million houses at 2.5% commission? You're going to make $100,000, and you can have 11 months of the year off. You could work 4 weeks and be done. Like, or do you want to sell, a bunch of $300,000 houses? Like, people, when you start like really breaking it down, it really becomes a different conversation. So what happened is when I got into real estate, I did those 2 years. I'm like, there's got to be a better way. So the one thing is I was very fortunate to go and work for a company called Mark Anthony Brands.
Okay.
And that was in about 2020, about 2007-ish.
Okay.
2006. And they own Mike's Hard Lemonade, White Claw. And they were exiting traditional media at this time.
Okay.
And going out of TV, radio, and billboards, and going 100% into digital and social.
Got it.
And the reason why is we were spending about $20 million a year in advertising. And for $20 million in TV, radio, and billboard, you could actually get about $200 million worth of that same ad spend on social at that time. And you could target market your consumer. So like we were doing geofencing, a lot of like ads on Facebook and whatnot. And our clientele thought we were nuts. Think about calling on Walmart headquarters, the biggest retailer in the world, or Chevron Global, or 7-Eleven corporate, and telling them that you're getting rid of your advertising and going into the space they know nothing about. So we were educating them on the opportunity.
Interesting.
Well, the business went from 250 million to 500 million in 1 year.
Wow.
So it was a very explosive thing. So when I got into real estate, the thing that I noticed is everybody was excited about video, but nobody, in my opinion, based on what I knew, was like really doing video the right way. And what I mean by that is everybody was doing videos on their listings or their open houses, and they were all ego-driven videos. Like, look at me, I got an open house, I got a video, or I got a new listing. And even Jared James talks about this. He's like, no one cares about your latest listing at 123 Main Street. And it's the truth. Even if you go to Google and type in a search term, like no one even knows what the address is. So anyways, I was like, I'm gonna inject digital and social marketing into my business with video, and so I was doing it. It's just I just didn't have any direction or know what was going on, and I knew about SEO, but I didn't know like how to inject it or even generate leads with it at that time. And so I was making videos, and then Jackson was the title rep, which is my business partner, and it was when I first started doing the cold calling, and the first one and only expired listing I ever got because I didn't like expireds. I think I love the challenge with for sale by owners because I'm thinking someone hates me and then converting them into a client.
I love that.
Dude, it's like you're just mind effing them basically.
Let's go.
And so I got this expired listing, and it was this it was actually a 9,800 square foot mansion. And I still remember calling the guy, and it was on New Year's Day. So in the real estate world, most people write the contracts to expire on 12/31.
Okay.
So January 1st is like the Super Bowl of of cold calling. So the list popped up, and I used to go through and I'd look at all the for sale by owners, and I'd look at the address. I'd go and do research. I'd look up the client on social media. I'd find an angle. And so, like, say they worked at Nike or they worked at Intel, or, you know, they went to the same high school I went to. I knew when I called them, I was leading them to that conversation. So I could create some common ground. Because you only have about 30 seconds to make it work. And so this house popped up. It was beautiful, big mansion. And I was like looking at it all day. Actually, I didn't call them. I was so scared. And I was like thinking in my head, I'm like, $1 million listing. Like, this is my opportunity. And then, like, I ended up calling this guy at like 7 o'clock at night, which is like, everybody's calling during the day in the morning. So I call him, and it's this Norwegian dude picks up, and he's like, hello, this is Vidar. And I'm like, hey, this is Jesse with wherever I was at that time, you know, did my spiel. And then he's like, hey, I'm driving up this hill. My phone's going to cut out. I'll call you back here in a minute. And I'm like, dude, this guy's never calling me back.
Yeah.
And literally the phone rings like a minute later, and he's like, hey, he's like, I'm been getting calls all day. Like, what do you do differently? And I just said, I'm an expert in digital and social marketing, and I can target market consumers, you know, all around the country that are looking for a house like yours. And he's like, all right, I want to interview you. And so I ended up going up there and meeting with them. I ended up getting the listing. And then through that process, that's when Jackson reached out to me.
Okay.
And he actually sent me this, he had sent me this video message, and no one else had sent me a video message in real estate. No lenders, no title reps.
Let's go. Take notes.
And he'd called me multiple times, and I just kept ignoring it.
Yeah.
It's because I assigned title to his company, because my other title company, it was out of their jurisdiction. So I assigned it to title, which was his buddy, Zach Bay, was letting him live with them at this time.
Okay.
So Zach Bay gave it to Jackson as threw him a bone. And so then Jackson connects with me, sends me this video, and I was like, oh my gosh, dude, this guy's doing video. I want to do video. I got to connect with him. So then I called him back, and he came and met me at the office. And then he kept filming with me, and he's like, all these people don't know how to turn their computers on. You're like the only one doing video.
Yeah.
So he just started working with me every day. We were doing videos. And I kept telling him, I'm like, dude, you're in the wrong business. You need to get out of title and escrow. I'm like, especially with the company that you're at. I'm like, I know where this path is going, and you're so good on video. You need to jump over here. So he eventually got into real estate, and still through this time, him and I were doing like the same thing. And this is like gonna link together as like, if you're doing the same thing as someone else, and this will play into even our conversation with the Houston business now, is like, you can just combine forces and get there a lot quicker. So you can go fast. What is the old saying? You can go faster alone, but you can go further together.
Yep.
And so Jackson and I were doing the exact same thing in two different areas, but we were both filming videos. We were doing blogs. We were doing social media. We were paying money for it. So Jackson told me, he's like, dude, I'm just gonna have to quit and go back to corporate America, because he'll even tell you I'm the worst salesman for real estate on planet Earth. He even says, he's like, I'm gonna make a shirt that says I'm the shittiest real estate agent.
Keeping it real.
Oh yeah, he's like, he's literally closed one deal in his life.
Oh my God.
And so I said, why don't you come and be my assistant? I'm looking for someone. I said, I'll give you 20. I said, every deal I close, I'll give you 25%. And I said, when we figure this video thing out, we'll split everything 50-50. So I gave him 25%. At that time, I had 10 deals in escrow. So one weekend, 5 deals closed. Jackson gets a check, and it's like 80 grand. The next weekend, 5 more deals closed. He gets a check, 25%. He's getting 80 grand again. And then he's like, oh, great. He's like,
let's go.
Dude, he's out there. He's like, I still remember. He's like, hey, can I dig your signposts? Like, he was just looking for things to do, because once again, in real estate, if you go from corporate to real estate, if you're not self-motivated, you're looking for people to tell you what to do.
Yeah.
So then you're like, start doing busy work. So then, slowly through that process, we started unearthing Jackson. So we started a podcast called the Real Agent Now, or Digital Mayor Now podcast, where we were interviewing agents all around the country that were doing, that were being put on the stages, that were like big on social media and video. And our final question was always like, have you closed any deals with your content? And not one of them had.
Wow.
And so this one interview that we did, the agent at the end, which I'll tell you who it was Karen Carr.
Okay.
She's like, and she's the OG of YouTube. She was the real OG. She said, we're like, how many deals have you closed from YouTube? And she's like, I've closed a bunch, and actually I have one closing today, or whatever she said.
Yeah.
And then we were like, what? We're like, you're actually doing it? So what she was doing is she was just taking blogs from her Google blogs, and converting videos and putting them onto YouTube. So then,
smart.
So Jackson, basically light bulb goes off. We go and look at her channel, and like all of our top videos are pros and cons, cost of living. So we're looking at it, and she was using keywords everywhere. We were like the first ones to like push TubeBuddy.
Yep.
And so we actually still have a partnership with TubeBuddy. So Jackson starts Googling those keywords or those titles into Google, and we're looking at the results through keywords everywhere. We go and put the same search result into TubeBuddy. Actually, back then it was called Morning Fame. Dude, it was like 10 times the amount of traffic on YouTube.
Wow.
So Jackson's like, dude, this is what people want. And we made a list of 25 videos, start making the videos. Dude, they start going crazy. And, you know, nothing's happening. No leads are coming in. And we did get one closing off of LinkedIn.
Okay.
The guy hit us up from LinkedIn and said, hey, I've been watching your YouTube videos, blah, 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 blah. So after a while, we go and meet with our lender and his boss. And his boss is like, your guys' videos are great because our lender was editing our videos at this time.
Okay.
In exchange for our business.
Interesting. That's a different approach.
Yeah, which was great. And it was funny because the day I met him, I go and meet him. And Addison was trying to earn our business at this time, and now we've done thousands of deals together.
Wow.
And Addison's like, I got to go. I'm going to meet this other guy. And I'm like, who are you going to meet? And he's like, oh, this guy named Jackson Wilkey. I'm like, that's my business partner. I'm like, holy crap, dude. So then like the three of us end up becoming like a team, right? So he goes to meet Jackson anyways. So Addie's boss is like, hey, your guys' videos are great, but he's like, I know about YouTube, and he was really big into social too.
Yeah.
He goes, the problem that you guys are having is he's like, I bet if you look at your analytics, those people aren't making all the way to the end of your video.
Yeah.
He's like, put your call to action on the front side of that video. And he's like, see what happens. So this one day, Jackson and I go and meet at the Tillicum Bridge in Portland. He's like, dude, I've been thinking about this. And he's like, I'm going to do the call to action right after I do the hook. So our old video structure used to be hook, call to action, video, outro. So we're on the bridge and Jackson's like, you know, so you're thinking about moving to Portland, Oregon? Well, there's 5 different sections of Portland, and we're going to tell you about all 5 of them right now. And he's like, hey, what's up? This is Jackson Wilkey with the Real Agent Now Group. If you're thinking about moving to Portland, we're licensed real estate agents. If you know, we teach you about what it's like to eat, sleep, drink, play, and buy and sell real estate here in Portland, Oregon. So if you're thinking about relocating, give us a call, shoot us a text, send us an email. Days, night, weekends, we got your back. We're moving to Portland.
Boom.
Dude, we dropped that video the next day, dude. Like when that video dropped, like it wasn't the next day, we had to edit it.
Yeah.
Dude, the freaking phone just blew up.
That's huge.
And dude, all these people were like, we've been watching you guys on YouTube for a year. We didn't even know you were real estate agents. All this stuff. And we were just like, holy crap. And then Jackson's Jackson's calling me, dude. I still remember Jackson's driving to the Zillow lead. Jackson's like, this guy wants to cut this house in half and he wants to subdivide it and all these things. I'm like, dude, you're wasting your time. It was like a lead he got from our broker. And this lead calls from Canada. And we actually finally sold them a house after like 5 years.
Congrats.
They didn't have American credit, so it was hard to get them a house. But anyways, so Jackson's driving. They call him. He pulls over. He spends 2 hours on the phone with these people. And he's like, dude, you'll never believe it. We just got the first YouTube lead. And I'm like, what are you talking about? He's like, this Canadian couple. And I'm like, I go, what's their price point? Are they pre-approved? All these things? He's like, I have no idea. I didn't write anything down. And so we had to call him back or whatever. But he spent 2 hours. He didn't even show up to show that guy the house. So this is happening in June of 19.
Wow.
June 19, July, and I'm like burnt out from real estate at this point because I've done this whole freaking, because I went 24 deals, 25 deals, 30 deals. And so this is 19. So this is my 3rd summer. And I'm like, now this YouTube thing's working. I'm like, I'm going to take the summer off.
Yeah.
Jackson's going to close the deals and we're splitting it 50-50. So like,
let's go.
So the summer goes through and I'm not seeing anything go into escrow. So one day this gal calls and she's like, hey, Jesse, I flew out here from North Carolina and Jackson showed me a few houses. They weren't the right houses, but I'm here with my mom and I want to buy a house.
Yeah.
So I called Jackson. I'm like, what are they looking for? This and that. And he's like, I showed him all these houses. Like, I don't know what else to show him. And I said, what are they looking for? And he tells me. So I find one house. I literally take her and her mom. I pick them up. I take them to this house and they're like, this is the house we want to buy. And I'm like, are you asking them if they want to buy? I go, trust me, you'll know when they want to buy. He's like, I don't know. So I take them, put them into contract. I called Jackson and I said, dude, you're done selling real estate. I said, send me everyone's contact. Because I realized at that point that he wasn't asking the questions and he was basically just being a tour guide. And so I ended up bringing back, and I think I told you this on the last podcast, I told Jackson to send me all the leads that had been out.
Yep.
And so I ended up bringing back 17 of those people, and I got all 17 under contract. I got them all back in 30 days. But I realized that at that point in time, I'm like, all right, Jackson's amazing at video. I'm really good at the real estate side. So I'm going to have him focus 100% on the YouTube and the video, and I'm going to focus 100% on the real estate. But also, I didn't tell you, is when we were building this, we were also 100% all in on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, blogs. So we were spending it. I probably dropped 100,000 that year, and website and everything. And then YouTube just literally just overnight exploded. Then we shut everything else off.
Yeah, I forget that.
And, then COVID hit and we actually brought on a buyer's agent. Then COVID hit,
Mm-hmm.
dude. And then everybody was free to move about the country. We didn't know that YouTube was going to be so focused on relo. It just happened to be what it was.
Yeah.
And so COVID started cooking up, and like all of our buyers and all of our sellers started terminate deals like crazy. And I saw the inventory get sucked out of the market and the rates starting to drop. And I told my team, so you're asking about like how'd your business scale up? What I told everyone is I said, guys, I go with low inventory and high demand because of rates. I said everyone's scared right now, but I said watch, when rates are going to be so good, it's going to create all this demand, and everyone's being able to work from home.
Yep.
It's going to create a surge in the market. And even I was telling, dude, I still have text messages to buyers where they're asking me like, what's going to happen? And I'm like, trust me, the market's going to explode.
Dang.
And so I said, just stay focused, keep making content. It's going to be a rough patch, but it'll eventually come back.
Yeah.
So during the interim of that, we were out building channels in other markets. And we actually ended up moving to EXP in March 1st, 2020. And at that point in time, we had tested out the business in Seattle. We'd gone and done a Coeur d'Alene channel. And then we go to EXP, and our business is really starting to like boom because of COVID. And Chuck Fazio, which is right here in this market.
Yep. Arizona.
I met with him, and I was like, he owned the biggest real estate single office brokerage in America with doing $2 billion a year in production.
Wow.
And with 900 agents. And I asked him, I'm like, how do I scale this thing? I'm like, once again, I'm asking the right people.
Yeah.
And then he's like, tell me what your business model is. And I tell him, he's like, so you're telling me people are calling you directly to work with? And he's like, you guys don't buy the leads, nothing. I'm like, nope. He's like, dude,
let's go.
He's like, you're the problem. And I'm like, what do you mean I'm the problem? He's like, you're trying to do everything. He's like, you might be the best, but you're only one person. He's like, he's like, trust me, you can get these leads will work with anybody. And I was like, that's very interesting. And at that time, somebody actually had tried to buy our channel also.
Wow.
And so we'd been working with an attorney. So it was actually like everything came together at the perfect time.
Wow.
And, so then we're like, well, let's try out having Heather just answer the phone. And she was a brand new agent. And her first year in real estate as my buyer's agent, she did 66 transactions.
That's amazing.
And I only worked with her for 2 months. And she always says, like, I just basically fed her to the sharks, and it was sink or swim. And even on the way over here, she was calling me. I still help her with deals. She's still our team lead. So our business that year went from, so that third year was 25 deals, or it was like 24, 25, 30. And then in 2020, it went to 47 billion.
Wow.
When I stepped out of production, and I just saw a massive acceleration, and it was so true. I'm like, you're always, and the agents always ask me like, when is the right time to find a buyer's agent, or when is it the right time to do this, do that? And I'm like, it's never too soon. You will always cap yourself at your limitations based on what you're built for.
Yeah.
So like even in the brewing industry, Jim Cook, the owner of Boston Beers, the guy's a genius, and he's the first ever like craft brewer in America. He always said when the markets are slow, that's when you refine your systems and processes. So when the market goes gangbusters, he's like, we don't let our foot off the gas. You go full steam ahead. Things are going to break, all the things, but that's the time to make hay when the sun's shining. Worry about the other stuff when the market's slow.
Huge.
So what I felt like at that time is like we had built the system in the machine.
Yeah.
So when COVID came and everybody was free to move about the country, we had this system that was just literally raining down leads like crazy, and people were begging us all across the country. So we went from our Portland channel to 11 channels. We started bringing agents into the EXP model with our channels. And, we just worked out our splits, and, the rest is history.
Dude, that is huge. And that was an amazing segment, because at the end of the day, just to kind of recap and give you all something to think about, I love how, Jesse, you specifically just saw opportunity. And it wasn't so much like you can tell that you're like a systems process type of guy.
100%.
And it's not so much that like he saw from my perspective, like, oh, I want to make say 94 million. And when we're talking these numbers for all of you that aren't in real estate, we're talking like top line revenue of like the price of the home that sold times how many homes that sold. And so I love that like you and your partner came together because of video. I love that you saw the writing on the wall, and I love that you're just a systems and process guy who just said, hey, I'm gonna perfect these systems and processes. And then the numbers, and then the team, and then like the expansion came behind that process? Because so many individuals out there, just really quick for anyone who's can relate to this, and maybe you've coached on this subject matter, they just can't get out of their own way.
Yep.
They're too focused on, oh, I want to hit this specific number, and why me, or why can't I do it, or what's the problem, or whatever the case may be. And a lot of those people have absolutely no systems, no process, no system, no nothing. What do you think what holds people back from that perspective?
So just like what you said is a really good statement.
Yeah.
Because I was actually at dinner last night with our Arizona agent, and we were talking about, I was like talking about layering in an AI, artificial intelligent inside sales agent with our
Okay.
business.
Yeah.
So what I learned is if you don't respond to the lead, whether it's email, text, or phone call within 5 minutes, 50% of those people will go to another agent, even on social media, and 60% of those 50% will work with the first agent that contacts them back. So realistically, if you don't answer the call in 5 minutes, you can kiss 30% of your leads goodbye. So when I'm
Wow.
having this conversation with her,
Wow.
dude, it's very important. And so we're sitting there, and I said I'm testing the system out, and she's like, well, how much is it? And I said, it's $12,000 per year. And she's like, oh man, she goes, who's like, that's a lot of money or whatever. I said, well, I said, is it really that much money? I'm like, if you're losing 30% of your leads, I said, let's just say the conversion rate's 16%. I'm like, at the end of the year, I'm like, you could be losing 16 deals. I'm like, 16 times 20, 320K. I go, so you're really telling me my $12,000? And I said, honestly, in my mind, I just think to myself, if this works, the opportunity is so dramatic. I'm not
Yeah.
even putting it down on paper to figure out what the opportunity is. I just say to myself, if I do what I think I know is right by the business, the results will come later. And it's like anything else. If you do the right things will happen. And it's I've heard you say that before too. And it's like come from contribution and be a value add, and then naturally good things happen. And it's just like real estate business, referrals, whatever. It's like there's always those guys that you come around that you're like, they're always going to try to sell you something.
Yeah.
And it's like, dude, you
Yeah.
don't even want to have conversations with them.
Yeah.
But like we were talking out there earlier, and I said, I don't know how many referrals I've given you guys, but I'm like an ultimate connector.
Yeah.
And I'm an ultimate referral giver. Like I see someone like, I need a landscaper. I'm like, I call whoever makes the post. I'm like, you need to call my landscaper. I've already qualified him. I've been working with this guy for 20 years, and he's going to give you the best deal.
I love
You
that.
want a contractor, you're going to call my guy. He does the best work, and he's going to give you the best deal. So I feel like I have high standards, and I've really done a good job at like curating my group.
Yes.
So I feel like, and I think that's a representation of me. So going back to like these other things, have I made mistakes and done things that didn't yield results? Of course, but I'm always like, let me be the one to test that.
Yes.
I think Celebrity Agent was a tool that was amazing. It was very expensive, and it worked great for us for a period of time.
Yeah.
And I would tell agents straight up, I'd say, look, this tool is extremely expensive.
Okay.
And, you're going to probably get 2 to 3 deals out of it, but I think in the long run, it's probably going to run its course. And, like your system, I think if it's done right, I think it's a great tool. And going back to the original question is, the reason that I think agents don't do it is because they're wanting to know what the now ROI is, and they want to see a tangible ROI. And to be realistic, I mean, think about it. 90% agents fail in the first 2 years. I'd say 90% of those agents, probably it's because they're not doing the work.
Yep.
The other part of the other 10% is they want everything to be perfect. And here's the thing, 2 things I love that I've read from the book Shoe Dog with
Shoe Dog.
Phil Knight.
Yes.
And also Russell Branson, the owner of Virgin.
Yep.
They both had the same philosophy, and it was like, go as fast as you can, break everything that you want, be as dirty as you want behind the scenes, but when it's a delivered product, it better be perfect. And the same thing, I say the same thing to my contractors that do my flips. I say, guys, because they'll clean up the job site every day.
Yeah.
I'm like, why are you doing this? I'm like, this is a waste of time.
Yeah.
Dude, I don't care how clean it is during construction. I care how clean it is when I go to sell the house.
Exactly.
And I'm like, you're literally wasting hours every day you're cleaning the house. So that's why. And a lot of agents just can't get out of their own way. And a lot of agents fill their time with busy work. And to be realistic, to be an agent to produce 6 deals a year, in my opinion, is very simple. And it doesn't take a lot of effort. To take it to the next level, you have to start adding in systems, transaction coordinator, buyer's agent. You start having to do things. So I think a lot of agents have a fear of responsibility, and the bigger you are, the more eyes are on you. And a lot of people have a fear of success. you know. It's
Ooh.
what are you gonna do when you get to this? And some people have imposter syndrome.
Uh-huh.
And I'll be honest, like, dude, when the money's pouring in, you're like, it actually seems easier when it starts becoming scaled model. And then you're
Mm.
like, then you start thinking like, I'm working less, but I'm making more. Like, why is this happening? So then what happens is the agents want to start getting innovative, and then they start trying to create new things. And then it takes up 90% of their time, but they're not getting the results that they got early on. So that's when the machine starts to break.
Ooh, I was reading in the book, and it talked about the book that I mentioned earlier, Your Future You, talked about how the Beatles and a lot of successful individuals will fizzle out because of the success and because of the systems, the process, of the communication, making sure you're on the same page. So, in that segment, can you relate to what Jesse said? What's holding you back? Systems, processes, where are you at? What does it look like? It was funny. I was speaking to an agent yesterday, and she was like, 30 years in the business.
Hmm.
She's in Los Angeles, 44 deals a year. She's talking to us at Liftoff Agent because she wants to go to 60. And then she's like, oh, well, ROI, can you connect with this person? Yada, yada, yada. I'm like, let's slow down and talk about your systems, your process. What are you doing?
Yeah.
And how can we pour, no point intended, rocket fuel on your specific process with a customer journey through tech and your website, lead pages, funnels, what have you. Because she was like, oh, I do it all. I door knock, and I circle prospect, and I send out emails and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, okay, cool. And then I look at her website. She was Siri Interactive. I'm like, well, how is this tying into anything that you're already doing? And she was very close-minded. So have an open mind. And also I wanted to say too, I appreciate Jesse being on because Liftoff Agent sponsors this podcast and the technology. And if it wasn't for Jesse, he's actually a huge referral partner of ours, one of our clients. So you can now see on the back end, like, how does this all come together? Well, it's partners like Jesse that believes in what we're doing. And we obviously have something of value, and we have a good mutual beneficial relationship to help each other so we can help more in the industry of real estate.
Exactly. And I think to add on to what you were saying, another big issue with agents is they're it's the same thing that we see in the short form world, the short form content, and how it
Yeah.
just gives, like, you're hearing now that kids will feel hungover in the morning when they're up all night on TikTok or Instagram because they're just getting massive dopamine dumps and oxytocin dumps.
Yes.
And also with agents, like, no one cheers for you when you're at the top. There's everyone trying to tear you down because it's easier to tear someone down than build your own empire.
Mm.
So what happens is, I see it all the time. I see it in today. Agents like, hey, I'm leaving this brokerage. I'm going to this brokerage. It was all this brokerage's fault reason I wasn't successful, but now I'm moving to this brokerage and I'm going to be this hero. You still have to do the same work. The reality is everyone's cheering for that guy again or gal because guess what? Everyone thinks that this person just got a new job. So they get that reinforcement of support, but nobody sees. It's like Mark Cuban, dude. As much as you can have your own opinions about that guy, I read his biography. It was amazing.
Wow.
And he created the first ever internet sports broadcasting radio.
Yeah.
Dude, he says no one will ever see the shit you ate for 7 years to get to where you are. That all they see is the successes. They don't see the hard work behind the scenes. So a lot of these agents, maybe they get bad guidance or they're around the wrong people and they're doing the wrong things. So then they don't get the results that they think they deserve. So then they bounce to
Mm.
somewhere else and then they get the same results and then they eventually fizzle out.
Yes.
So it's a very, very like we said earlier, it's part-time all the time. And a lot of people get into real estate to become an entrepreneur because they want that freedom of schedule, but then they don't realize that you're working 24/7 and it's just a complete life suck. So a lot of my wife has the best system in the world. She films every other weekend for 6 hours,
Mm-hmm.
and so that's 2 days a month, and she generates 400 to 500,000 a year in commission, and she splits that with another agent that closes all of her deals. So it really depends what you want, and then you engineer the plan backwards from that. And actually, I met her through our coaching program,
Wow.
and she said she was actually, when she got into real estate, she's like, it's so interesting because I was looking for something what you guys had. I didn't know that's what it was.
Yeah.
But she said everyone that I spoke to said that no system in the industry existed. And she goes, it was crazy. Yeah.
What?
So this was like, obviously it was like right as, we cracked the code with YouTube,
Yeah.
and, she got in early, and, she still kills it.
Wow, dude, that's amazing. And because of our relationship, Liftoff Agent's building a site for his wife. And
Yeah.
I talked to Smith today about it, and he was just like, oh yeah, he said he's busy. He's on a flight to come to Arizona for some meetings and to be on the podcast. I'm like, okay, cool. We'll get to it. But I'm curious in this segment as far as a little bit more of the personal side, because you hear everyone's hearing right now, like 450 agents, the vanity metrics, all these YouTube channels, hundreds of millions of dollars in real estate closed, all of the things. How do you balance? I mean, even fix and flip. How are you balancing, having 2 kids, a wife, now you're traveling, you're here in Arizona. Like, how do you balance that so that way you give quality time with your kids,
Yep.
and then give that time for your team and be able to manage it all?
It's yeah, it's funny because I'm like, oh, I'm going to Phoenix, and then I'm flying from here directly to Portland for the regional rally, and then I'm flying back home, and then I'm flying to Dallas for the top 250 influential people at EXP for the program
Wow.
there, and then I'm flying back to Boise, and then I'm flying to Vegas for the Jared James private mastermind. So I'm like, I'm all over the place.
Let's go, dude.
Yeah.
Let's
And
go.
here's the thing, dude. Like, so everything I'm telling you,
Yeah.
I am a constant learner. And it's not that, and I don't implement everything I learn. I just love knowledge. I love knowing,
Mm-hmm.
and I love being on the trends and knowing and working with people that are actually doing things.
Yeah.
'Cause there's a lot of noise out there.
Yeah.
But the thing that is very important is this world that we're in, digital. You were talking about this when we came in.
Yep.
You're like, dude, I can go right on social media and see what so and so's doing. Everything, like, my phone's over there. I turned it off on purpose. Our phones are our connection to the world.
Yep.
And now we're in a world where everything can be remote, everything's digital, work from home. I call it flip from home. My real estate investments, I do foreclosure flips. And everyone's like, I don't even see foreclosures anymore. And I'm like, yeah, it's because I buy them directly from the bank. I'm buying the first lien positions from the bank, and I do it in another state. So I had to remove myself out of that. And even I talked to my one of my performance coaches, and he said, dude, he goes, the reason I got into developing over flipping is because when I flipped, I'd go to the house 100 times. Jackson does the same thing. He goes to his flips 100 times. I'm in another state. I go to each one twice. Once when I can get the person out and I see with the condition and I can build a plan.
Yeah.
And then I go to it a second time after it gets staged when it's all done.
Wow.
And so I have a crew that I trust, and I have a process that I go through to do the flips. And I have everyone lined up.
Yeah.
Same thing with real estate. Every single day I wake up, I have my calendar. I'm a big, I remember you saying, like, agents don't show up and I don't get it. And it's like, they're not managing their calendar.
Yes.
Everyone in the world, in their industry, I don't care if you're an entrepreneur, what business you're in, every single person needs a Calendly account and connect it to your dang freaking calendar.
Amen.
And live and die, dude.
Let's go.
I make my wife, I don't make her do anything, but I do make her send me calendar invites for everything. And so, like, you can go on my phone and
Let's go.
I can open it up. There's probably 40 things that she's doing this week that I can see just because I want to make sure that I'm available to go to them if I'm available. I want to know what's coming up. I want to plan. So we're very, it's just being process oriented, being organized, and living by the calendar. So I try to put everything into my workday between like 8 in the morning. And then I always try to be done by about 4 or 5.
Yeah.
And then, I'm always accessible. Like, my agents will call me at night, text me at night, whatever it may be. But I just feel that everything is so leverageable by the connection of digital and social media that, I think it's like what the guy said, you're the problem of your business. You're the reason it's not scaling. I feel that's the same with everything we do. I feel like there's someone that you can put into place to take over the things that you want to do.
Yeah.
And here's the thing, even like, I do our acknowledgments in our groups for our coaching students. I'm like, I want to see what the result is, and I want to know what the interactions are like when I make these posts. And then on the back end, I'm actually loading it into Monday right now. So there's a streamlined process moving forward where my coach can put the accolade into Monday. It shoots over to my content team. They make the post, and when that's done, it goes to our poster. So now it's all in a streamlined order.
Yeah.
But I wanted to get a feel for it before I put it in a scalable model.
Yeah.
So that's really what happens is, when I do foreclosures, I still every Monday morning, one of my jobs, dude, is I get a list from this company.
Yeah.
And I go through every single one. I look at it. I see if it's a deal, no deal. I start doing a little bit of research, and I spend about 2 hours a week on that aspect of my job.
Wow.
So there are things that I do, but I'm very, very organized.
Dude, I love that. Congratulations. And that's something that you all need to take in consideration because living and dying by the calendar is huge. My wife and I talked about it as well. And I said, honey, just send me a calendar invite or just look at my schedule. And, sometimes I don't mean to be cold about it. It's just like, if it's not there, then it doesn't exist. And this is just what it is. And then you see how Jesse, already has his next 4 or 5 whole entire trip's just
Oh, yeah.
planned, ready, knows where he's going, what's happening. And then this was impromptu. So we're filming on a Wednesday. Technically, this podcast is only filmed on a Friday. And I wanted you to specifically be on this podcast because, we only have a few of like licensed real estate professionals, people like on this specific show, but 2 hours is a good amount of time to talk, go
Oh, yeah.
deeper, get the audience to know, it's not just about, and this is also, I guess, still technically tied into personal development, but that's what I would really recommend for you all as far as, like he said, get a calendar.com or calendar.com, get in Google Calendar is what I use. It's on my phone. It goes off. It's super simple. It's easy peasy. And I even have my alarm go off 3 times a day for goals. I'm like, all right, intention and goals, boom. And just program yourself into that habit. Because I remember over the weekend, happy Easter, everyone out there. Easter was last weekend. Same to you, Jesse. And I don't know how many times you go around family and family are talking about politics, or they're talking about sports, or they're talking about the weather, or they're talking about their job or traffic or whatever. And how many times the family talk about like living and dying by a calendar, or the gym, or counting calories, or company or business. It's like, I don't know about you, but I'm a cycle breaker in my family. So when I move around with my family, it's like total different conversation. Like none of this, they don't even, this doesn't exist. Business, forward mindset, reading books, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, how is it I'm curious, in your family, are you cycle breaker?
Oh, yeah. My dad was he passed away from liver cancer.
God bless.
But he worked for the mill, and
Okay.
then the mill shut down. It was like a fraud situation where it went bankrupt one day, and then like all their pensions had been cleared out.
Oh shit.
So they got no money. So my dad got screwed there, and then my mom actually was forced into medical retirement from the police department.
Wow.
So she was working in booking.
Yeah.
And she actually lives over by us now in Idaho.
Okay.
But yeah, my parents my dad maybe made in his life the best year ever, maybe like, I don't know, 70, 80 grand. My mom, she was always like a 50 grand a year person.
Yeah.
So like, my dad owned his house. He like worked every day, every night, every extra hour to get that house paid off,
Yeah.
And when he died, like the house was paid off. Even my stepmom to this day, we're still tight. She's always like, oh, I have this house paid off and this and that. And it's like what they hang their hat on. My stepbrother, same exact way.
Really?
Like works 24/7, have the house paid off. And then, my family, they can't even conceptualize what I do. And I don't even try to explain it to them, because after like 15 times, you're just like, I go, just tell people I'm a real estate agent. Like, that's all you need to say. And,
let's go. Just real estate agent. Keep it simple.
Oh, yeah. My mom's like, always like, I try to show people your YouTube stuff, and I just really don't understand what you do.
Dude, I'm the same way. It's hilarious because we have expanded, and a lot of our teams, basically all of our team in the Philippines, and so Vitz is like almost like my work wife, you could say, and so she's like every day checks and balances, and she's helping with like 5 different jobs as we scale, and then those jobs will then be hired out for specialists within the organization, and she's like, yeah, and I went to her Providence to meet her mom, to meet her dad, and then just to like see their culture, see how they live. Like, I don't know how many people out there that, you hire someone in the VA, Filipinos, whatever, so India, but like how many of you go out and actually meet these people? And that's what I did. And Vince was like, yeah, my mom, it's hard to explain. And I just kind of like leave it as is, and it is what it is. And it's funny, but it's definitely interesting when you do what you do, and then it's nice to connect with people that understand it, and then I think it's nice to turn it off sometimes just to be around family, because then I don't know about you, I just kind of feel normal. I'm like, not that I'm not already normal, but like you just kind of feel like, yeah, we just kick the shit, whatever.
Yeah,
like,
we were at dinner last night, and the manager comes up and he's like, "Are you to Cheryl, our team lead down here?" And he's like, "Excuse me." He's like, "Are you on YouTube?" And she's like, "Yeah." And he's like, "Oh yeah." He's like, I watched you. I just moved here 4 months ago, and I watched your channel forever. And
what?
I was actually at the Phoenix Zoo here 3 years ago at night, and I was walking through the Christmas lights, and then all of a sudden I hear this guy's like, "Is that Jesse Dow?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And he actually looked like a guy I worked with at the brewing industry, and I'm like looking at him, and he's like, "You have no clue who I am, do you?" And I'm like, "Honestly, I don't." And he's like, me and my wife are moving to Portland, and this is from our Portland channel, but he's like, me and my wife have been watching you and Jackson for like 5 years.
Wow.
And,
let's go, dude.
Back when I lived in Portland and we had the channel there, like everywhere I went, dude, people would be like, everyone's like, "I can't believe you're leaving. You're like the mayor of Portland." And I'm like, "Yeah, well, they torched the city, and the mayor's got to leave."
The mayor has to leave. It is what it is. But there's something to be said about, parasocial,
Mm-hmm.
and parasocial relationships is like, if you don't already know this, it's like a fan celebrity type relationship. And so someone will watch Jesse Down and be, oh my God, like that guy on YouTube. I actually went to there's a guy, he was on our podcast for Real Estate First Technology. Got to get back on this one. And he has a podcast called Just Grow Podcast. And he has, some of them are woo and some of them are do. Do is like SOPs, KPI, stuff like that. The woo is like meditation, spiritual practice, whatever. And so I went to one of the spiritual practice ones and I got partnered with this Indian guy. And I'm going back and forth. The next thing you know, podcast comes up. And the next thing you know, the podcast turns into a story. The story sounds really relatable. And then he's just like, oh, it was your podcast. I'm like, what the heck? And like, he was talking about my aunt, all this stuff, and it was real estate versus. It was this one here, the Liftoff Experience, and I had Ryan on, and you guys can check out Ryan's. He was going to be a professional baseball player, and he goes from professional baseball player to, it's called Middle Finger Mantra, and he has like a guys group, and they come together, and he's helping these men just become next level men in all different aspects of life.
Nice.
And so you never know who's watching or listening.
Oh yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah, that's like even at the Jared James thing, he's like, because some lady's like, should we talk about like, I'm big into my faith and this and that, or
Yeah.
politics, and he's
Yeah.
like, honestly, he's like, you can do whatever you want, just know that when you when you're talking about like religion, politics, and things like that, he's like, you're gonna alienate 50% of your audience out of the gate,
Yes.
And I actually, when everything was going down, I actually used to do a little bit of work in politics.
Okay.
And I remember telling my performance coach, I'm like, I think I'm going to I said, I think I'm going to move back to Oregon and run for the governorship. And he goes, he's like, I don't advise that. And I'm like, why? And he goes, if you're someone that cares about what people think, he's like, you just know that 50% of the people out there are going to want to kill you.
Oh my
Regardless. And
God.
actually, Kevin O'Leary from the Shark Tank,
Yeah.
he ran for like the prime minister of Canada.
Really?
Yeah, he said you should. He talked about it on the Full Send podcast, and he said that he was getting death threats. And he goes, honestly, he's like, I don't know what I was thinking when I did it, but he's like, I would never. He goes, it's crazy. He's like, I'm on the Shark Tank for 20 years. Everyone loves, sometimes people hate him, obviously.
Yeah, yeah,
'cause he's
yeah.
like, the most sharky shark on there.
Yeah, yeah.
But he's like, when I ran for this position, he goes, people literally were sending me death threats.
Wow.
He goes, I would never advise it on anyone to ever do it. So,
Dude, that's true. I had a kid, Colton, really good dude. Shout out, and back to that Silver Fox Properties, Chattanooga, Tennessee, and he had like, God first or whatever on his flyer, on his hanger. I said, dude, I said, I get it, I understand. He's like 21, 22. I was like, I get it, I understand. I said, just so you know, that could be off-putting, not because God isn't great and faith and all that type of stuff. I just said, you never know, because like my one of my family members, I'm not going to drop any names, family members was very preachy. And it's just like, if I saw that and then I was going to get preached to and I just want to invest and I want to get your knowledge on investing and God's first, and is that going to be the first conversation that we're going to talk about? And I don't know which direction it's going to go into. Not to say that I don't have faith and I'm not a believer. I just don't know where it's going to go. So I told him, I said, just take it off. And then if the conversation comes up about faith or God or whatever, cool.
yeah.
Wear the cross or whatever, but like, don't put it on your flyer.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's just very interesting. And yeah.
Wow. That's interesting. But hey, at the end of the day, it is what it is. And hope you guys could take some of that stuff and, apply it to your situation, your business, whatever you have going on. So you're expanding, you're growing, you're at EXP. I know that before on the last podcast, or technically we just did an interview, it was on the Liftoff Agent YouTube channel. You're working on some different partnerships and opportunities, and you just had a big, congratulations, a big collaboration happen. So what's going on with that, and how did that all transpire?
Yeah. So it was funny because like when we were talking, the deal was almost done. And I knew I was flying out to Houston to make the announcement because we were just trying to figure out the date to make it happen.
Yeah.
And
these guys were his competition.
Yeah,
He told me over the phone today.
yeah. Oh yeah. Dude, so basically, Jackson moved. So when all of this went down, you're talking about like leveraging scalability, all the things.
Yeah, yeah.
So let's back it up to 2020 when we're both in Portland and there's all the riots, the Summer of Love. I actually lived downtown, which was where all the riots were happening.
Oh wow.
And then when I talk about the mayor, it's funny. The mayor lived next door to me, so he actually issued a letter to us, and this is what stemmed me to leave. was the mayor, Sam Adams,
Yeah,
not the brewer,
yeah.
but the mayor of Portland's name was Sam Adams, no longer the mayor.
That'd be crazy if it was both.
He issued exactly. He issued a letter saying that, he's really sorry that this was happening. The reason that it was happening is because he lived downtown, which was complete BS, and he was going to move out. So I was like, in my mind, I'm like, he's going to move out. This is going to keep going on, but they're not stopping it, and they can. And there was so much politics and optics that were going on because of, Trump's reelection. The George Floyd thing was going down.
Okay.
It was just crazy, dude. So Jackson calls me. He's like, hey, I told him this was in like the beginning of July. He calls me one day. I'm like, I am so sick of this. I said, I can't stand it. I think I'm going to leave. And he's like, he said that the whole time. He's like, I literally was like wanting to talk to my wife. Or he's like, my wife and I had been talking about this. He's like, I'm so scared to ask you. But he's like, he goes, my wife and I were talking about moving back to Houston last night. And I go, what are you even doing here? And he's like, what do you mean? I'm like, why are you here? Like, you don't need to be here. I'm like, we can make content from afar, this and that. You're not closing deals. Like, why are you here? And he's like, you don't care if I leave? I'm like, no. Literally 2 weeks later, I sold this house and he was out.
Wow.
Exactly. So I was trying to wrap things up and get everything organized.
Yeah.
And I was making a decision of where I was going to go. It was either going to be Dallas or Arizona. And I told you this before, but all of my organization pretty much lives down in this area.
Yeah.
So I thought it was just like a bigger opportunity to move to Phoenix. Plus, there hadn't been a channel here yet. And I knew that Phoenix is one of the top relocation markets in the country. So I'm like, Jackson's going to go to Houston. I'm going to go to Phoenix.
Yeah.
Everything will be great. So he shoots down to Houston. He fires up the channel, which fast forward to today, dude, that channel this year will generate over 4,000 leads.
Wow. So, let's go. Congratulations, dude.
So during this time, and we'd been already building these channels around the country, and what we would do is we'd go to a team and we'd say, hey, we're built this YouTube channel. Take it for a test drive. We'll give you 3 leads. Close them if you want to keep it going. Then you got to come over to EXP. That was like a recruiting tool. So we built this all around the country. We were attracting agents like crazy. But when Jackson built his channel in Houston, all of a sudden one day Jackson's like, dude, there's this guy that's making content down here. And actually he's like kicking my ass. And he's like, I need to step it up because Jackson like wasn't putting in the effort. And so he's like, I know exactly what I need to do. And this is like our whole position used to be we were anti-home tours.
Okay.
But this was before COVID. And this is like, if people are listening to this, like this is probably one of the most important business lessons I could ever teach anyone. It's like, don't ever fall on the sword to protect your own ego. You need to be able to adapt and adjust. And this is like when I can tell whether people are real or fake, is if somebody is positioned into one segment and they're stuck on this one piece of like core belief or training that they teach, and they're not willing to adjust and adapt, but their business is going down, I know that they're not the real deal. Because like Elon Musk says, if you ask a real engineer about a problem, they're gonna go a mile deep on how they solve that problem. But somebody that didn't create it or solve the problem, they're only gonna be able to go an inch deep. So when COVID hit, we started seeing a big shift where before COVID, people wanted tiny homes and they wanted to move. They wanted all of this freedom to travel.
Yeah.
When COVID hit, we noticed that everybody was asking for bigger homes, more land, and all these things. So the home actually went into their number one priority. So we knew that we had to start shifting our content to do like basically showcase these homes. So if you look at our channels today, we're really focused on big, beautiful model homes that are fully staged. And it's primarily for eye candy to keep the average view duration up. So anyways, Jackson switched it up, started doing these home tours, and our results started just skyrocketing. Well, the other person ended up being Kyler Ferris. So over the past couple years, Kyler and Joe have been in Shep Black coaching. And reversed it 3 years ago, Kyler was actually at EXP. Joe and Kyler both sat on the stage. They were both at the same exact position in their business.
Wow.
Fast forward to today, Kyler left EXP, started his own brokerage, and he ended up building a 45 agent brokerage. And he does about 376 transactions, 100-something million in production. Very good success. Well, what happened was Kyler's operations manager, the guy you were speaking to, he spends over 50% of his time trying to track down checks, spends the other 50% of the time dealing with legal issues. And this is like EXP is really built for a scalable model and is the best brokerage, in my opinion, not just because I'm there, I've looked at them all, but that's why their tagline, it's where the pros go to grow. So if you're like a big team, your operation, EXP takes all that off your plate. They do all the legal, they handle all the checks, payment processing, all that stuff, compliance. And it's a very big leverage opportunities. So Kyler had actually approached Joe, and this is the one thing that's kind of interesting that you probably don't know, but we get approached all the time for big teams that try to take over our production on our channels all the time.
Interesting.
Yeah, because it's a legion. It's basically like Zillow Flex, but on steroids.
Yeah, most definitely. And you're building parasocial relationships, and they already know, like, and trust you, and they want to work with you instead of like a lead coming in. You got to call, you got to text, you got to go through a nurture sequence.
And we were the first ones, and I was the first one to ever demonstrate that you could actually have other agents close the deals. You know, that was because of the whole person trying to buy our channel back in the day, and then also COVID and all that. So we were pioneers in blazing that trail and whatnot. But anyways, Kyler had approached Joe multiple times saying, hey, why don't you just fold your team into my team? We're both doing the same thing. Basically what me and Jackson were doing. Like I said, we're going to come back to this story. So here we go. So he's telling Joe, like, hey, we're doing the same thing, but I've already done it.
Yeah.
You were here and I was here. Now I'm here and you're still here. And so Kyler, and so Joe would always tell Kyler, the only way it's going to happen is with Jesse and Jackson's approval, and you're going to have to come to EXP.
Whoa.
Well, EXP issued what they call co-sponsorship, which allows you to name two sponsors now, a primary and a co-sponsor. So for people that don't know, EXP has a multi-level marketing aspect to it, which is revenue share for the agents in their organization, which it is life-changing money.
Yeah.
And so and EXP also launched what they call white label, which means that a brokerage, that's say an indie brokerage out there, can keep their name independent and not use the EXP logo.
Got it.
So Texas, it's a big deal because of the rules down in Texas with the way you get paid and the way you have to brand yourself. It's kind of a pain in the butt.
Yeah.
So white label in Texas is a really good thing. So Kyler calls Joe and says, hey, I'm actually willing to move to EXP now.
Whoa.
This was on February 11th. So I told Joe, as I said, time kills all deals, get Kyler on a call. And I'd never spoken to him in my life. And neither had Jackson.
Wow. So
on February 14th, Valentine's Day, I'm on the phone with Kyler on a Zoom call in the Costco parking lot, and he's presenting this idea. And the one thing that really got me excited about this was that Kyler had way less leads than we did, like a lot less leads, but he closed more deals on YouTube.
Interesting.
And it's because he had the systems and the processes set up. So he was converting at a 16 point something percent conversion rate. We were only converting at a 3 point something percent conversion rate. And so if we were to take our exact leads and put them in a Kyler system, our business would go from 77 closed transactions in Houston to almost over 300.
Wow.
Without doing anything. Obviously, there's probably a little crossover in there.
Yep.
Of leads slipping through the cracks and whatnot. So what our baseline, what our parameters were for this deal to come to fruition, it was very interesting. Is the thing I really respect about Kyler and why I wanted to work with him is because he said JoJo, which was our team lead in Houston, he has to be in 100% on board with this idea, and then 2, it has to make sense for the agents. And so never once was this conversation about any of us. We all knew the byproduct will be a higher conversion rate. We'll all make more money together. But we put these 2 specific elements of the piece of the puzzle together first and foremost.
Yeah.
And the reason why it was important to get Joe taken care of is because Joe was going to fold his team into Kyler's team. And Joe was going to remove himself out of real estate production.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So stop selling real estate altogether.
Okay.
So when we met Joe, he was making about 50 grand a year in GCI. Fast forward to today, dude, our YouTube channel is freaking insane. And he's making, $500,000 to $1 million a year every year. And it was like being held. It's a good and a bad thing because if you've never built the machine, you don't know how to build the machine. And then someone just says, here you go.
Yeah.
It's like putting in the Titanic in your bathtub, dude. It's just going to sink your ship. And so we ended up structuring the deal. Everybody was in agreement. And so when I was on your podcast that last time, I knew it was happening and we just didn't know what date it was happening. So things kind of went on. And we made the announcement on April 9th, just a few weeks ago.
Wow.
And it was funny. We all showed up to Kyler's office. Joe brought his team. We'd already told Joe's team beforehand, a week before, so they were already aware. We're at Kyler's office. We got all EXP's corporate there. We have me, Jackson. Everyone's like, oh, why are they here? This and that, And then Kyler goes up there, does his thing, did a phenomenal job at explaining what the opportunity was. Actually, the splits got better for his agents too. And then we threw a huge party, and it was a really good team building thing. We did a crawfish boil out in the parking lot, beers, all the things.
Wow.
And then the thing that Kyler did, which was smart, is for the first week is he had all of his leads from his channel, because we're going to still operate the channels separately.
Okay.
Just they're all going to funnel into Kyler's team.
Got it.
So the first week, Kyler redirected all his leads to Joe's agents. And then the first week, he redirected all of our leads to his agents to show them that it was just, there would be no hassle. And
Wow.
so since Kyler had people answering the leads and closing the deals for him,
Mm-hmm.
and we were having someone answer the leads and close the deals for us, adding this layer to another business that's in a scaled position
Yeah.
was flawless.
Wow. Congratulations. That's huge. I love the fact that you first and foremost said, let's make it not about us. Because a lot of people out there, take notes out there. It's not about you. It's not about the money. It's not about the numbers. It's about others. And the people that you put above yourself are the ones that are going to handle leads, talk with the clients, and help someone find their dream home, which then they're going to raise their kids and the whole nine, within these homes, which is huge. And that's awesome that you've, through this whole entire process, and just on this episode today, you could tell that you've really just like not failed, but really failed forward, I guess you could say. You just kept seeing like, okay, not only, I guess I will just take the whole fail thing out. More so, you've seen the writing on the wall and saw the opportunity to be able to clean systems and processes to then get to the next level of growth.
Yep.
And so you went from what, like say 3 and some change to now 450 agents because of this?
Yeah, we were at like 390.
390 to over, yeah, just like that.
And I was just looking at my numbers when I came in here. It said in the last 30 days, I've had over 60 agents join my organization. And that's just like not all of Kyler's agents are over yet, because they gave him the opportunity to like still close their deals at Kyler Ferris Realty.
Yeah.
To like apply towards their split. So he has about, I think, all but like 14 over.
Okay.
So like our ecosystem is like a pretty well-oiled machine.
Yeah.
And our average agent last year closed 8 transactions out of all 450. Well, at that time it was the 400.
Yeah.
So we have a very productive group. And with YouTube, and that was the thing, dude, like, my whole thing is actually, after going through the team model, is when you're talking about unfair splits and things like that, is I always said, like, if you're going to be handed a lead and like you don't have to do any work for it, like that's a very good value proposition. And if I was an agent when I first started, if somebody would have came to me with that, I wouldn't have cared what the split was. If I was just getting hot leads and could actually taste real estate and get hot leads given to me, dude, I would have been doing backflips. Eventually I would have gotten burnt out on that model, but the average lifespan of a team agent is like 2 years. So
wow,
the agent, like the teammate leads already know the agent's going to leave and you're just on borrowed time.
Yeah.
So that's why with a lot of team agents, they're very strict and they're very stern about their splits in the model. So it's, it's always about fulfilling the goals on both sides. It's like a deal, dude. Everyone has to both feel like that they give something up and everyone has to both feel like they win.
Yep.
When someone gets screwed and someone wins big, then it's never a good deal and there's going to be a fallout. So I've always been from the position is I could probably squeeze my splits even harder, but like for me, I don't really care because like I've never had an agent leave our team model.
Yeah.
Like with our partnership program.
Yeah.
We've had one where we had to like replace them because they weren't closing the deals.
Yeah.
But other than that, I've never had a single agent leave. And
wow.
And I've never had an agent complain about the splits. And I always say this, I say, look, if there's a problem, like I don't like surprises. So just tell me what's going on. If you have a problem with something that's going on. With Houston, we've had to restructure that thing so many times because it's the size of Houston. The city is massive.
Yeah.
So what we do in Houston is a lot different than what we do in Portland. It's a lot different than what we do in Phoenix. So every market yields a different result and it's a different structure. And we're always willing to adjust and adapt. And I'm never just stuck on one thing. So that's what I was saying. Like if you're a leader of amongst groups, like don't ever be scared to say that you screwed up.
Yeah.
And like, don't ever die on the sword to protect your ego. Like that's the worst thing. I see agents do that all the time. And I'm like, dude, I've seen massive, like I tell agents this all the time. I'm like, look in your city and just remember who the top agent was when you came in, where you saw their signs everywhere. And then look at where they are today. A lot of those agents fizzle away because they don't learn to adapt and adjust over time. So now you see like the big thing in real estate. They're like, oh, those social media agent. And I'm like, dude, if you were smart, you would be partnering up with these guys because there's a lot of these social media agents that don't want to close deals and you could use them to give you the leads.
Yeah. And the social media agents out there, for anyone out there that follows agents that are going viral, that are doing really well on social media, my question would be just to them would be like questioning like their motives, like and integrity from the perspective of like
Yeah.
these viral agents normally are just getting seen by other agents.
Yeah, exactly.
And so I don't know if it's like, hey, you want to just grow your downline? Is that your purpose, right? Because you're not getting a traditional homeowner, going and seeing that and being like, oh, I want to work with this viral agent. Like this house is a COVID house. I found this house. I found Gilbert, Arizona, because of YouTube.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So that's where I would say, be careful out there with, and ask yourself if you're an agent watching this, what's the purpose of the viral content? Because I see it and now I kind of just like turn an eye to it and I'm almost like wanting to question, not their integrity, but just more so like why? Like, why are you trying to do that? Is it because of your ego? Does it make you feel good? Because a lot of times I'm looking at it almost like you're in the wrong industry. If
Yep.
you love doing film production so much,
Are you saying they
then
should be an OnlyFans?
get out. Dude, maybe. I don't fucking know, dude. All I gotta say is I don't understand. This isn't a knock or a hate. It's just I don't understand how, doing a viral video, which is great, you can be seen. And we all know about viral videos. They don't do shit for you. I've gone viral. It doesn't do nothing for me. It's just a lot of hate. And then the actual viral video itself starts to take a life of its own, and people are going back and forth and commenting, and there's all the freaking, whatever, the bots and shit, and the trolls. But yeah, I just want to say that because you and what you're doing and your approach is very systematic. It's very intentional. It's very poised. It's not like, oh, let's just do a bunch of viral shit that goes like, the broke agent. Congratulations on what he's doing, and now he's creating like a platform, which may take over what was going on with Inman for the longest time. Like that's the new Inman, right? Basically.
Yeah. So yeah, like broke agent, Jared James, a bunch of those guys do a great job. But I've always, we've always said our tagline from the beginning was like, we sell homes, not views and subscribers.
Yes.
But like, that's why I've never really liked the short form side, is because it's always, Gary Vee says it best. He's like, don't make the algorithm is the human that's watching your content. So that's the algorithm. But I will say that like Instagram, TikTok, the reason I think TikTok is actually a good platform for people is because you can post 15 of the same videos on TikTok and see which one does the best. And you can post it on YouTube Shorts if you want, or Instagram or whatever.
I love that.
A lot of people, even Mr. Beast, test everything on TikTok before he puts it on Instagram. But even Instagram, because I follow the CEO, he does that Ask Me Friday.
Yeah.
It's so good, dude. You can become a world-class Instagrammer, but just by watching his stuff. But he says that now the algorithm is 100% focused on shares and watch time. So it's funny how everything always goes back to watch time, and that's what we've been preaching since day one. We're like, dude, watch time for YouTube is key. Like,
yes,
the higher the AVD, the more you get pushed into browse and suggested, and that's the algorithm at work. And it's funny because you can go into Chat GPT right now and type in what traffic source is the best for YouTube, and it'll tell you search, which search is all SEO, and this used to be our training platform. Well, once we figured out the whole home tours and extended content and getting like big, juicy, 10 to 20 minute average view durations, but we're making 30, 60, 2-hour long videos. Dude, our freaking browse and suggested erupted. Browse is the holy grail. So if you could take it a step further in GPT and say, like, what if all of your majority of your traffic source is coming from browse? It basically is like you've hit the holy grail of YouTube. Browse is way better than search.
Let's go. I love that. No, it's very, very true. And I'm curious to kind of go into a different segment. You all are watching and viewing and listening to someone that like you don't like need to do much of anything anymore if you didn't want to, right? Like you hit a pinnacle of success where like I feel like now money, you've already outgrown anyone in your family. You're a cycle breaker. You're obviously making a good amount for yourself. You have a couple homes here in Idaho. Like you're doing the VRBO, Airbnb, fix and flip, have 450 people on your team. Like what makes you keep going? Like what's the thing, that's just like gets you up in the morning, gets you to keep moving forward and expansion?
It's actually a really good question. And the best explanation I ever heard that actually made me really digest this was Robert Herjavec from the Shark Tank.
Okay.
As he said, like, he goes, I said, he's like, when I sold my first business, I always told myself I was going to buy a plane. He goes, then I bought this plane. And he goes, and then I sold this other company for hundreds of millions. And he goes, then I said I was going to buy this big plane. He goes, then I bought the big plane and this and that. And he's like, and then he's like, I was talking to my wife and she said, like, what's the next thing? And he said that he had to really think about it because he's like, a lot of people always is like the monetary and the money and the rewards are it's never fulfilling, right? Money is not the fulfillment. And here's the thing that I've learned from like high level entrepreneurs is, dude, they don't care about the money so much. Like some of them do with like the Flash, the Ferraris, the Lambos, big mansions and all that stuff. But if you're a real entrepreneur, you are just motivated because you have more left to give, and that's what fulfills you. So for me, I honestly
Mm.
just like wake up because my wife says the same thing. She's always like, "When are you gonna retire? Do you have a plan? This and that." And I'm like, she's like, "You're gonna be working till you're 80. Like you never stop." And I'm like, the thing is that I just love doing it, and it's not even like I look at it like it's work. Even with like real estate transactions, like I love to get the buyer to the offer point and putting in the offer. Same with listings. I love listing it. I love negotiating the deals, and then both at those points, the whole deal to me just dies in my heart because I'm like, it's the excitement's
Wow.
over. Like I built it, I did it, I got them to their objective. Now it's over. And the same thing with like
Mm.
entrepreneurship is, I just feel like that there's still so much more left to give, and I love learning things. I love seeing things succeed. Like even with my marketing agency and having the VAs, like we got to a real bad point one time where I was like, basically I was like going to shut the whole thing down. And I told everyone, because I've had everyone on a salary and I was paying them every other week, whether they worked 1 hour or 500 hours, it was the
Mm.
same. And I realized I'm like, I was burning so much money. And then I'm like, I told them all, I said, "Hey guys, I'm really sorry to do this, but I have to put you guys all on an hourly rate, and you need to start turning in your billable hours." And I literally thought everyone was going to quit. Not one single person quit.
Wow.
And our business actually grew so much faster,
Okay.
and the quality got way better
Mm.
because now actually they were being held accountable and things like that. But if it wasn't for those 13 people that I was like employing overseas, just like you said, you went over there to know their culture, I would have just shut the whole thing down. But
Yeah.
I felt responsibility to them. And,
Mm.
I'm grateful that I'm able to provide other people opportunities. So for me, it's like the result, once again, it's the result of my actions that directly impact those people. So I think about like the 450 agents in the organization. I've personally connected with all of them online, millions and millions, and it's one of our channels has 100 million impressions. That's 100 million people that have seen us. So I'm like, how have I directly impacted people all over the world? And then it just starts to become like, dude, this is crazy. So
Wow.
you can't even grasp the impact until like you start to think about it. So for me, it's never been about the money. I've always said like, oh, I'm gonna, like my coach actually said, you should put a a dollar figure on your bank account just because it'll be a focus so you're not burning cash. So I remember like
Mm.
I'm gonna increase my savings account by 100,000. Dude, I did it in like 3 months. And then
Wow.
he's like, and then I'm gonna go to this level. I'm like another 100. I'm gonna go to another 100. I'm gonna go to another 100. I'm like I want to know what it's like to have $1 million in the bank in my checking account. And then so like I just did it, and I'm like, and then nothing, it didn't make me change the way I felt.
Yeah.
I never felt better.
Yeah.
Money does not solve any problems.
Nope.
But it is everyone says this, it's a tool. And people say all the time like money provides me the experiences. If like I travel to all these things in the next 6 weeks, I'm like, that's only done because of the money that is
Mm.
available. And actually I tell my wife, I go, these next 6 weeks are going to be able to take me from like here to here, and I don't know what's going to come about it,
Yeah.
but I'll be able to share the knowledge with someone that it's going to have an impact on multiple people. So it's funny that you say that. I never once say that the byproduct is going to be income, but I just know that it will eventually be the income. It's just that it just happens so naturally, and it's a byproduct of the action that it's never really a thought, because I've never thought in my head like, oh, this year I'm going to make $1 million, or I'm going to make $10 million. And people, it used to drive my
Mm.
coaches crazy because like they I don't need anything to motivate me. I am naturally I'm a very high like revving person, and I'm very
I can
fast
tell.
processor. So for me, I'm never going to get motivated by saying, "Oh, I want this or I want that." I'm like, I'm already giving it 110% every day. So if it doesn't happen, it's just not going to happen. Like people used to say like, you
Mm.
should put a goal down for your production for the year. I'm like, I'm gonna do the same I'm gonna do the same lead generation I do whether I put down 500 or 5,000. And if I
Yeah.
put down 5,000, it's like I'm not going to try harder just because I'm like coming up
Mm.
short. So I don't know. I've never been the type of person that needed the goals and things. I do think that you need to have some guardrails,
Yeah.
and I do think there's a lot of people that do need that.
Yeah.
And I do think that there's things to like bring to your top of mind that does set those benchmarks. Like the
Mm-hmm.
thing about adding the 100K, because I was just like recklessly, I shouldn't say recklessly, I wasn't paying attention on things I was spending money on. And
Mm.
I would just be like, oh, this training, that training, going here, going there, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
And then, but you know what that did is then when I got the money, then I got into the foreclosure game. And then so like
Mm.
that's what the opportunity revealed itself. And I was like, the one thing that I'd love to do now, and it's driving me crazy that I haven't done it, is like I'm like, I want to develop something like a house. or like build a house or a development.
I love that.
And so like I was like thinking, I kept thinking, I'm like, I got to build a 100 house complex. And then it dawned on me like a couple weeks ago. I told my wife, I'm like, why don't I just build one house to see what the process is like? Because my performance coach, he's like, dude, you do all these flips, and he's like, dude, your flips, we do high end flips or
Yeah.
like high skill, and he's like, your stuff is so dialed in. And I do all the design myself.
Wow.
And it's probably one of my favorite things is design. And he's like, dude, he goes, building a house from scratch is way easier than flipping that house because you're tearing it down.
Yes.
And restarting from nothing. He goes, when you build, you're starting from a blank slate.
Wow, dude, that is awesome. I think the first thing that comes to me when you talked about in that segment was like legacy, man. It's like people forget what you said and did, but they won't forget the way you made them feel. And at the end of the day, it's just like money's like a tool, like you said. But it's like showing and serving and supporting, and then your team overseas, and then the agents that you're supporting, and you met every single one of them, and then you're really now finding out what your passion is. Like eventually, who knows? Maybe you'll be the first to do some type of like new house style that's like eco-friendly, smart house. Who knows what you potentially could do? And it's so true, man. We had 6 of our. I just looked at the documentation today. 6 of our. So we use hub staff. Yeah. Everyone's tracked based off hourly. We're very dialed in with that. Everyone gets paid on a weekly basis, and so our video team was the newest team within our organization, and they crushed it. They put together. Each and every single one of them put together a different process of the manual for our training. And it's like one thing to serve and support and help and hire, and then then you give them ownership. And you inspire them and you motivate them, and we do money motivation, and the next thing you know, they start to like do things on their own. And I'm sitting back thinking to myself, wow. Like I remember there's a time where I was everything, and now I can sit back and just observe the documentation that's been created by our team, and you see their passion that there's going to be delivered to the next person who's going to get hired with us. It's like, dude, like, wow.
It's funny when you talk about legacy, because Jackson and we always talk about this, and we're always like, what are we going to do when it's over? And I said, my goal is literally, I just want to go in and delete every YouTube channel and just be done.
Boom. Let's go.
Like, dude, straight up shut it down. Because Jackson's always like, oh, I want to be able to give my channel to my kid or whatever. I'm like, dude, screw that. I go, you want to have a system set up so your kids don't have to work or, whatever. Like, it's not good to like give them. That would be a horrible idea, but you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I'm like, I want to literally go in and just delete every single channel and just shut the whole thing down.
Wow, dude, that's amazing. I like that. One thing that comes up for me, and knock on wood, I'm not wishing this upon myself or anything like this. It's like as you become a cycle breaker, and your family and your friends, like they kind of understand, but they don't really know. But then they see the things, right? They're like, oh, okay, I see the house, I see the cars, I see this, like interesting. And then I love to share. So I share experiences, everything for me. So whether it's the cars, the house, or this, or that. And I was always thinking to myself, like, man, did God forbid, knock on wood, if something was to happen, like how many people, because of what I've done, in my life to serve and support and to help, would show up to my funeral, and then the friends and family to be like, holy shit, like this person must have been doing some good, because that's what legacy is. It's the way you show up for other people and how they remember you beyond and above the dollar amount. Because I mean, we all know the story of Scrooge, how far that got him.
Yeah, nowhere. Humbug.
So no, and I'm just, I'm grateful too, because, association for everyone out there, like the fact that like Jesse took his time to like, he flew here to Arizona. He knew that we had the show. He talked about going and coming in person. I said something to you. Now he's here at my personal house. And our aspiration for the end of the year is 500 agents. And we have another 160 agents bring up before the end of the year to get closer to hit that marker. Got to go through our number, agent count. And we're not a broker. We're a marketing company. So I'm not getting rev share, nothing like that. I'm just getting a salary, right? So it's a completely different, a song and pony dance, whatever. But association and you being here inspires me to be like, all right, I'm going to hit that shit. I'm going to make that happen. This is what's good. Because I feel like everything in life is transfer of energy. Yeah. And like you are just affirming in my mind as you're sitting here that like, it's like the universe, God, call it what you will. Like Norm, you're on the right path. You're going in the right direction. It's going to happen. So just so you know, Jesse, like it means a lot for me for you to come here and to do this. And I really do appreciate it because you don't need to be here. You know what I'm saying? And so thank you for the referrals and for what you've done and how you speak highly about us. And then you took the time to come to my personal residence to be on this show so we can serve and support people. Speaks a lot about your character and your legacy, man.
Thank you. Yeah, if you want to hit that 500, you're probably just going to need to reach out to like 100,000 agents, and there's 1.5 million of them. I'm like, dude, if that's what you need,
He's doing the math.
I was, because I was like in my head, because I heard this guy say this. He goes, I used to think, and this kind of goes back to ego, but he's like, I used to think I was the king of real estate.
Yeah.
He goes, I'd close 40 deals a year, and he's like, so what I had to do to humble myself, he's like, at the end of the year, I'd go and print every single sold in the market. And he goes, and then I'd realize there was like 20,000 homes sold that year, and I did 40 of them. And I'm like, there's 19,960 more opportunities that I didn't get.
Oh my God.
So in your situation, I'm like, if I was doing that, I would literally be going to YouTube. I'd be searching out every YouTube agent, and then I would like be showing them the opportunities. It's like I was talking to this guy that was selling this AI system.
Yeah.
And I said, if I was you, I said, I'd be calling every agent, and I would be like documenting how long it took to get a response. And then I would show them how much money they're losing by how many leads they're not converting because their people aren't answering the phones, and then give them the solution to the problem. Like that's realistically like the thing. So like with your stuff, I mean,
let's go. I love that.
Like, I've been a big website guy for a long time, and I've always believed that it does represent your brand, especially in the modern day of like consumer, the Gen Z's coming up.
Yep.
Dude, they're looking at social, they're looking at your website.
Yep.
They might not be doing the research, but they're like, it's validation. So the whole ecosystem has to be on point. And, dude, I was telling you before, I'm like, people tell me, oh, I'm using this thing, I'm using that thing, and nobody ever gets the results they want.
Yep.
It's because everyone has sold this Fathom idea that by having this website, you're going to generate all these leads, but it's like, how do you position it? It's whether or not you're doing SEO, whether or not you're doing ads, things like that. So with your guys' stuff, I've said it time and time again, I think it's the best platform on the market. And I think that there's other applications, which you guys probably do with like other entrepreneurs type of stuff. Like we're doing one for Channel Junkies right now with you guys. And like we were trying to figure out how to make the interactive map, like what does it play into our world? So we're actually, I worked with Smith on creating a special, you'll see it when it's done. You might not even know about it, what we're doing, but it's going to be really cool.
I haven't seen it yet. No. I love that. And that's why for us, we're not trying to be everything to everybody, and the goal is 15,000 agents is our end game number. I'm the opposite of you. I'm more of like, what are we hitting? Okay, cool. We're at this number right now. Okay, like whatever. And so for me, it's like, okay, like we don't want to be everything for everyone, and we wanted, and this has been the biggest like uphill battle we've been on, is that people don't understand the customer journey process. And they don't understand that whether you're sending out a mailer or you're door knocking or you're doing YouTube videos or whatever, you can drive them to a point of interest. Some people know ClickFunnels or your website, and then you could have a ClickFunnel on that site, and then you can have a video, and you can have an intake form, and you can have a guide, and there's a funnel process you can bring them down. And so my biggest uphill battle is to teach individuals, like the 30-year veteran yesterday who I met, and she's thinking that like, I said, this is where I tell people, I'm like, this isn't Zillow. You're not buying leads here. We're talking about your avatar. We're talking about branding. We're talking about your website. We're talking about positioning. We're talking about you meditating on what does a customer journey look like when they go through the process of finding you because your mailer or because your ad or because your YouTube video, and they go to your website. What's the next steps? Oh, okay, cool. This is the next step process. Working with the buyer. What's the process? What's working with the seller? This is the process. So that's how we want to innovate the industry. So, just like you say to your mom, like, oh, like just tell everyone I'm an real estate agent. Okay, just tell them what a Liftoff just as websites. But it's more than a website. It's an integrated system and a process. And so that's why we need more, use of the world to like see it, understand it, and then also want to nerd out and have fun with Smith because that's what he's good about. Yeah. And we have branched out, and I haven't talked too much about this, but Liftoff Agent owns a third of a microplastic company. Not a company, but it's a microplastics website. So a big thing now is SEO, as you know. And it's like, okay, there is a company that had everything about for dogs, organic dog food, treats, all the things. All it was is an aggregated website with a Amazon store that tied in all the Amazon products. And then it had SEO, and it had an influencer with videos and video to blog. And then it started to gain traffic. And then with the traffic, they would get you get micro sales, you get like a percentage of commission based off the sale of the Amazon product. Then you would also get SEO, and then a company bought it for $3 million. Oh, nice. So now we're helping this guy who's a client of ours who wants to do the same thing. His son's autistic, so he wants to do an autistic site. And then he has an influencer he's working with, and I've never met her. She's some gym, whatever. And it's all about microplastics and how you get microplastics out of your home.
Yeah.
And so we're in the bylaws with the corporation. Liftoff agent owns a third of it. And so I don't know where it's going to go, but it's differentiating yourself like that, where it's just like autopilot, autopilot, autopilot. So we are dabbling a little bit in a couple things. I'm out of the fix and flip stuff, dude. We have one last to be done with, and I'm over that shit.
Oh yeah. It's like that's the thing is like if you're buying it from a wholesaler or a third party or whatever. And actually the AG, I just actually we had a warning at EXP leadership call last week.
Really?
Our CEO said that the AG in Arizona is going hard after the wholesaling industry here.
Really?
So if you're in the wholesaling industry, just make sure you're you're doing everything on the up and up, which I don't know who's not, but
Yeah.
it's funny because Jackson had a real rough go with the fix and flips, but he was buying
really?
them from the wholesalers. And so like, Jackson's always like, dude, everything you do, like you make it seem so easy. Like because Jackson was asking me forever. He's like, how do I do it? How do I do it? And I said, dude, just ask people everywhere you go. Hey, who do you know that like wants to sell a distressed home? Like it's got to be distressed. He's like, well, how do I get the money? I said, there's freaking 900 hard money lenders probably in your neighborhood. He's
Yep.
like, I've never done it. So I said, just Google one. And so then he did his first deal, and his first deal, like he was like with me with door knocking, his first deal was a home run. He got it off
Wow.
the market. It was a private owner or whatever. And then the next ones, it was wholesales, and he just went through freaking a bloodbath with it.
Ugh.
But like all of mine, I buy directly from the bank, and I get really good deals. So like one, I'm actually in the process. I just closed one on Monday. I
Okay.
bought it for 300 flat. We closed it at 552. So 250,000. It was about 120 in remodel. So it was almost 100K profit. The next one I'm doing right now, I bought it for 300. I actually bought it on the same day as the other one, and it's going to be worth about 700.
Wow.
But that one, I told my wife that it has such a big spread, and I love design. So I'm like, this is the one I'm going to go over the top with.
I love that.
So I told my contractor, he's really good. I said, dude, we're going to make this one special. So
And you can't go wrong with it. Every single house that, like, just right here, we have a huge turnover, and this is awesome. Our neighbors across the street, they just moved in, and the house was on the market for like literally 30 to 60 days, if that. And then shout out to our neighbors down the street, Joe and Ash. So she's realtor, he's mortgage, and their house sat on the market for like forever, 6 to 8 months, but they didn't do anything. They just put it on the market. They just assumed like, hey, it's just gonna sell. And for him, like, older gentleman, kept everything pristine. It was more the Tuscany feel, and theirs is more the modern feel. But there's a bar in there in like the kitchen. No, there's a kitchen, and there's like a dining, and there's a bar, and like that's kind of out of place. And that was one of the things. And it's interesting when you go over the top, people respect that. And like, this house, it's been 5 years of just like nonstop. So people come in this house and they're like, what the heck? Yeah, it's just a 96 build, no big deals, 4 walls, whatever, 3,200 square foot. But we put a lot of our time and attention and love into it.
Yeah.
And it shows compared to someone who's just like, oh, just gonna throw it on the market and see what happens and do like a lipstick flip type of thing.
Yeah.
And that's what we do with ours too, but ours are 55 plus and with the market. And then you got snowbirds coming, and Canadians have been hammered compared to the US dollar. So it's a shitty situation.
It's funny. I don't know if you deal with this with your marketing agency, but if we get Canadians, they're always like, can you just do the conversion for me? I'm like, my cost doesn't change. I'm in America, dude. Come on.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not going to give you a discount because, you're not here. No, we don't.
You know what's interesting, dude, and you should actually look into this, but we're with the Channel Junkies marketing agency, dude. We're getting a lot of like foreign agents coming into our program. I told Jackson, I go, dude, there's people from Nigeria, Spain. We have a guy in India now in there, and I'm seeing the comments on Channel Junkies, and I'm like, dude, this is what I was talking about. You never know your reach.
Yeah.
We're seeing like people globally use our platform.
Wow.
And, like they're closing deals, and I even told Jackson that because U.S. is like the golden standard of real estate, and I know with the NAR stuff, like people are kind of hating on it for a little bit, but still, out of all the G7 countries, the U.S. is the second cheapest country to sell a house in.
Interesting.
But I told Jackson, I said, actually for YouTube for real estate, because most countries, a seller has to call 7 agents to sell their house.
Yeah.
So if you're the influencer of the market, dude, you're gonna dominate. So I'm like, what we do is actually more beneficial in foreign countries. So I'm actually there. If you go into like YouTube, like living in Amsterdam or living in Spain, you'll see a lot of Channel Junkie style content out there.
What? Congratulations, dude. That's That's awesome. Yeah, we haven't broke out of the U.S. market besides Canada. We want to be able to. We're in the Philippines, of course, with our team,
Yeah.
but we want to be able to expand outside. And we never know. Never know. I mean,
Yeah.
as our partners expand, we're going to expand. See what happens with that process. But we are in the process right now. Jen, she'll be coming May 26th as we start to scale our sales division,
Oh, nice.
so we can reach out to those 100,000 people. Because when you're working on it in the business, especially from my perspective, there's a lot going on. And for me too, there's something to be said about having fun and enjoying what you're doing. And, like you said earlier, and we talked about this, like, it's not always about the money. So like, this is very invaluable. And I could have said, hey, I got to make two hours of phone calls. Of course, I just feel like there's a lot of value that could be set out there. It furthers our relationship, and you never know who's watching and what can come out of the opportunity.
I actually just gave you your Smith a lethal weapon to give you a huge competitive advantage.
Really?
Did he talk to you about the LMS coding?
No.
So I asked him if he'd heard about it, but he hadn't. And actually, a buddy of mine owns an AI company,
Okay.
like a real AI company. And he's like, one day I was talking to him, and he's like, I'm like, how's business? And he's like, dude, he goes, great. He's like, my business literally doubled in like 30 days. And I go,
Wow.
what's that from? And he's like, oh, I installed the LMS coding on my website. And I'm like, what's that? And he's like, it's language or learning model something, and or language model. So
Okay.
basically what it does is it takes your website and all the content and downgrades it. You just give it your link into your website, and then you plug that coding into the back end of your website. So AI systems like Grok, GPT, Gemini, it all uses so much data that it's looking for the lowest data usage content to give people in GPT when they're researching. So we downgraded. Smith just finished it yesterday for the Houston channel. It's the first one website that he's done. I gave him the code link or
Wow.
the tool to do it.
Yeah.
So I hit him up yesterday, and he's like, yeah, we finally got it done. So when people are researching, moving to Phoenix, moving to whatever, Portland, Texas, all the above, our stuff will be recommended because of the data usage, not because of anything else.
Interesting.
Obviously, you want blogs and backlinks and all that stuff, so you can like basically take your YouTube videos, transcribe it, turn it into a blog, and build a library.
We're doing that too for our clients. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, he talked to me about that because we're like, how do we now like really amplify this essentially? So
Yeah.
because like it's really weird, and this is just like a bonus to you guys, is actually we took just from building our website, doing nothing else. Like we rank Google page 1 for like tons of keywords when you guys built out the website organically, because
Yeah.
Smith sends the report out or it comes out automatically.
Yep.
And I'm like, did we put blogs on the channel and this and that? And he's like, no, this is just how it came stock. And I'm like, dude, we're driving so much traffic by doing nothing. So I'm like, now we just put the LMS coding in there. We are going to do some stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's crazy, dude. And
Dude.
that's like the old school of the blog writing, where you have to sit there and like write the blog.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Trying to drive all this traffic. And dude, Google's getting smoked by GPT, dude. Like the traffic is down. So here's the thing, dude. You're hearing it from me first. Is no one's got their eye on this GPT lead generation thing. And all of our YouTube channels, if you go in, like, what's the number one resource? I did it with Cheryl last night. I put, what's the number one YouTube channel for relocation resources for Phoenix? And her channel pops up there. It's like that with all of our channels because we have so much SEO in them. But I said, trust me, as this new generation starts coming on, all of their research is going to be done in AI. So your content better be funneling in. So guess what? You guys have a competitive advantage with that little tip.
Hey, you guys heard it first. Let's go. And no, I love that. And I love like the one thing that I do with these podcasts is that if you know, you know. Like if you're watching, you're watching. And if you're watching and you're like going through these shows and you're like, now we're almost 2 hours in.
Oh, dang.
Isn't that crazy? You're going to get these golden nuggets, but it's not just like for anyone. And a lot of people out there, 90% of people, probably 95, probably 99% of people, it's the 3-second scroll. They don't go deep enough with shit. And that's why I think content now is king from the perspective of people now are slowing down, like the CEO, like you said earlier, of Instagram. Like, let's slow down. Like, let's actually consume shit and like learn something and not just be mindlessly entertained, unless it's something like my wife's always sending me shit about whatever it is, like better way to be a father. Like, I got to go buy roses for my daughter now. We have to go on a daddy-daughter date. But, stuff like that, right? Which is cool. Outside of that, I want to actually like get into the book, get into the podcast, go deeper in the process. But no, honestly, like I appreciate that, and that's what we do. Because like I was just at a meeting, and I was talking to this agent, and she does property management, and she's like, I love what you're doing. Have you done anything with property management? I have a few clients, we're in the space, but like we focus on real estate agents. She's like, oh, I would love to innovate, this industry and do what you're doing, but for say property management. And I think there's a big thing with it. I said, sure, whatever, right? And then like you giving the code to Smith, or Charles with the microplastic thing, like that's how I feel like if you can slow down and go deeper and not go so wide sometimes, you could really get down to like the golden nuggets or the deeper connection to be like, how does this work? And like, because Smith and I, we meet, but now you being here and you being on the show, now the whole team, hey, Liftoff, I hope you enjoyed this episode this week, right? They're going to watch it and then be able to say, oh, okay. How do we go deeper with that code that the Jesse was talking about?
That's like with the Hermosi on the Iced Coffee Hour podcast.
Yeah.
Like I told Jack, I've told everyone about that podcast because I'm like, once I want to be come from contribution.
Yep.
But I'm like, I literally watched that whole entire episode. It took me like 4 days.
Wow.
I'd play it and then I'd watch another chunk of it as I was driving, or but like the golden nuggets were coming like an hour in, dude. Like I literally started watching it when I landed in Houston, and then I was finishing it at the Salt Lake airport when I flew back. So literally over the course of 4 days, I was like watching chunks of it. And dude, I will tell you, to what you just said is such a golden nugget. It's like you don't know when that golden nugget is going to come into the conversation. It might be 2 hours in.
Yeah.
And that's why it's so hard. Like with Joe Rogan, and he does a 3-hour podcast, and you're like, dude, I got to watch all 3 hours. But then you're sucked in and you're watching it and you're like learning all these things. And you're just like, this is mind blowing.
Yes.
And it's crazy because like even with Patrick Bet-David coaching, he says it all the time. He's like, dude, you can get all of the coaching you need on YouTube.
Yes.
Like for free. Alex Hormozi says the same thing. And it's like you're always looking for something else, but what you're really paying for in those systems when you start getting into real crazy coaching, it's just accessibility to like these big influencers.
Yep, 100%. No, we just had on Friday last week the certified health nut Troy Casey on, and he has like almost 450,000 followers on Instagram. He's very science-based, but he's talking about all these different things when it comes to like everything, microplastics to the food we're eating to our foot prisons and all the things. And I mean, it was a wild card episode. The guy was just like, I felt like I was like an encyclopedia. He was just like rattling it off, and then he would like stare into space, and he would like, I was like, but we went for the ride. In the beginning, Jen, she came in because she was off last Friday. She's a full-time teacher until she's going to be done quitting. So this can be back there, and we had someone producing the podcast, but depending on, impromptu, it's here. And at first it was like a little like, I don't know. And that episode's live now if you guys want to watch it. But then the golden nuggets started to come in later on. And then last night the team sent me a message like, we went on ChatGPT and analyzing the podcast. There's a lot of controversy here. I don't know if YouTube's really gonna like recommend or like that. I'm like, well, we're not gonna maybe not monetize off that episode per se, but hey, if it helps and it serves and it gets out to more people, cool. But like we talked about earlier, proximity, man, just proximity. Like this show and the other podcast has opened up so many opportunities for me to be in proximity, live and die by the calendar. That's my 4 o'clock. To really lift off and have more success in the process.
I actually heard something really good actually when you just brought up monetization on YouTube, because I mean we have every channel is monetized, but I was like listening to the Nelk boys talk about that, and when they were interviewing with Sean Hannity, he was like asking them about being monetized. They said, well, we're not monetized on this one channel because it's like it's pranks and this and that. And he's like, well, I have a really good attorney that's successfully sued YouTube 32 out of 33 times with people they weren't monetizing because it's like a discrimination thing. But what they said was actually very important, and I never thought about this, but they said on our non-monetized channels is we can use mainstream music. So mainstream music and music that people know is way more engaging.
Yes.
And it actually gave us 10 times the amount of results. So we don't actually monetize it on purpose, and we have other better brand deals because of that. So then Sean Hannity actually said, yeah, he goes, I agree with that. And he's like, it's exactly why we got a cover band to do the covers of all these very famous songs on our show. So then I talking to Jackson about it, and I'm like, dude, screw the monetization, because we're literally making like $3,000 a month on some of our channels. I go, let's see if actually putting in mainstream music gives our audience a different experience, and if it'll increase this and that, because YouTube used to even downgrade all of their video files.
Really?
So yeah, they used to downgrade it from 1080 or 4K down to 720. So we used to tell our agents, like, just shoot in 720 at 60 frames per second, and that's all you need. Well, now I was actually just doing some research, because Instagram, when I listened to that guy, the CEO on Fridays, Josh,
Yeah.
he said that the quality matters of on
Mm.
Instagram. So I was like, I wonder if YouTube matters because now you can upload 4K videos. And
Yeah.
actually, so I went onto the YouTube's website. You can go into any FAQ on YouTube, and they'll tell you the result. And I put in there like, does the quality of the video matter? And it says yes. They actually favor on the back end higher quality videos because now a lot of their viewer consumption is coming from TV. And even on some of our channels, 90% of our views are TV.
Interesting.
And YouTube just became, which is very interesting, the #1 platform for podcasting
Wow.
over Spotify, dude.
Dude, let's go.
So it's crazy, man. That's like why I have a background in digital and social marketing, and why like I'm just all in 100% on YouTube. Like I
Yeah, me
think
too.
everything plays its role, but even like YouTube is now even like we want to be the #1 like video streamer in the world. Like they want to take out Netflix, dude. And even like UFC's negotiating right now. They're leaving ESPN. It's either going to be Netflix or YouTube.
I think it's gonna be YouTube because at the end of the day, it's like it gives people like so. One thing that I did is I was crazy and I put 3.5 years of my whole entire life on YouTube. I recorded Monday through Friday. I would edit over the weekend and post on Sunday for
Not-
3.5 years.
Not the
Like
Truman Experience. It was the Norman Experience
yeah,
or the Truman Show. The Norman Show.
the Norman Show, and so everything. And so when we first brought on like our team and staff members, like Vitz, you watched all my content, and then and that was right before about when we moved here during COVID in 2020. So daughter's birth, the proposal, like all the things.
Oh, cool.
And so that's just I think it's just under Norman Lloyd Kinsey III. And so I did a couple of videos with the GTR, how to put in the Tesla screener, this or that. And then this weekend we're doing a GTR event, and I've had upwards of like 17 GTRs here. And this weekend we should have about 13, 14 cars, about 25 people. We're doing
cool.
a breakfast Saturday, and we're doing a cruise. And one of the guys in the group's like, "Oh, dude, you should do a YouTube video, bro. Like this and the other thing." So I'm like, "Okay, cool. I'm gonna do that." And then with the podcast, we started Real Estate First Technology during COVID because of COVID, and I couldn't do in person. Like I used to go into brokerages and meet them in person and bring the laptop and show the agents everything. To then COVID, then us going digitally. And we shut down our main office like 8 months before COVID hit, and I just like built a little like office in my wife's. It was like a tri-level condo in Hayward, California. And so I just did everything there. Kicked off Real Estate First Technology, now Liftoff Experience. And we're at like 5 years, 500 episodes I've done, 500 podcast episodes. And it's just now starting to, like, I'm starting to see it catch wind.
Oh, yeah.
It takes a long time.
Well, that's what I'm saying. The 7 years, dude. It's like, it's funny, man. You just keep going, going, going. And then one day you're like, it's like something goes and it's like, then it's like, it just goes quick.
Yes.
And that's the thing. It's like the slow motion. And like, that's what I used to have to tell Jackson, like when we were starting with the YouTube thing early, dude, he'd be like, I don't know. I'm going to, I'm going to quit. And Jackson, actually, if you talk to him, it's even in the book. Like people are like, what does Jackson do? And I said, oh, he just sits in a dark closet and just does something with video. And I said it as a marketing play. And I didn't know this, dude. We got in a fight, dude. It's in the book. Like,
Really?
he got really upset. And I didn't know it was driving him crazy. But he always say, like, you're the Don King of real estate. So, like, I'm really good at messaging. But I just did it to, like, basically create a reaction in this thing. But, like, I kept telling Jackson, I'm like, dude, we just have to keep going. I'm like, something's going to break loose. I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
And I still have the pictures on my phone, and I sometimes post them. But it shows, like, our 13 ideas. So, like, YouTube was number 10 on our list. And so we just kept going. I kept telling him, I'm like, I'm the one funding this thing. You're not funding it. It's my money. Like, let's just keep going. Let's keep going. Because even that book, 3 Foot
You're getting
from
50%.
Gold, yeah, I'm like 3 Foot from Gold. They always say is people just stop a little too early.
Yes.
And it's like you, dude. You're like 5 years and you're like, it's finally going. But here's the thing. Look at all of those people you talked to, all of the actions you took, like all of it's compound. It's like putting your money in the stock market. Like Warren Buffett talks about it. It's like your $1 one time isn't going to do anything, but it's the $1 to $2 to $4. It's like how many doubles to a million? It's like 19, right?
And you know where the rubber meets the road too is when you go to the conferences or you go to the events and you've done all those interviews or all the content you've done, and then you see people that come up to you and they're like, "Oh, I've been watching your stuff for years," or whatever, blah blah. Like, "Oh, Jesse is awesome," and then you're like, "Oh shit!" Like, like the guy who at the airport.
Oh yeah, dude. I have agents all the time. They're always like, you changed my life. You changed my life, and I'm like, dude, I don't know how, but I'm great. I'm grateful for that. Thank you.
Right, and that's legacy, and that's how they're going to remember you, and that's where the rubber meets the road. And I love that. I love that. It's great to be able to, at the end of the day, it's whatever. It's cool because when we're all said and done, this shit's going to be out there for who knows how many fucking years, and then people can catch this stuff. And you probably have. I mean, hundreds of, if not hundreds of thousands of videos. I mean, I have 4 or 5 YouTube channels myself, And it's just a blessing to have the stuff out there, and you never know.
I always tell my wife, I'm like, the thing is like our grandkids are gonna go back and watch these videos, and they're gonna be able to share the links. So that's like the only reason I wouldn't delete the YouTube channel. But
Yeah, right. Me too. That's the only thing too. That's why I like the family channel that I have. It's like it was called what was it called? It was Entrepreneur Experience, something like that. And then it was just like, this is what I'm going through. But it's funny, you watch that shit and you're like, man, I was so confused. Like I don't know what the fuck I was doing. And then you look back, you're like, okay. And so now it's like, if I feel like it's like popular based off demand. So if like people are asking me, then I'm like, sure, okay, I'll do it. And if it starts popping off and it's organic and it just happens like that, cool. But I'm no more trying to like, I used to push so many different directions. Like just get focused on the one thing. That's what I did.
exactly.
And now we're good. So
Yep, laser focus, go all in.
go all in, laser focus, like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and appreciate you being on, bro.
Thank you, man. Appreciate it.